Please, can everyone see our screen? Drop a comment. Yes, okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I have divided my presentation into 4 sections, okay? In the first section, I'll be introducing you to data. Next, we'll look at the fundamentals of data analysis. Following the fundamentals of data analysis, I'll be introducing you to Excel. There'll be a brief introduction with hands-on practical, okay? And then lastly, we'll get our hands dirty by analyzing some data in Excel. Okay, there are 2 things you need in this webinar to have a full experience, okay? You need your laptop, and Microsoft Excel installed on that PC, okay? So if you don't have Excel installed, that's very fine, that's okay. What you need to do temporarily is to go to your web browser, whether Chrome, Internet Explorer, or Firefox. And when you get to your web browser, for instance, this way, when you get to your web browser, just type in excel.new, okay? Excel.new. When you type that into the search box, it's going to take you to Microsoft website where you will get a free Excel spreadsheet online, okay? So get this ready before we get to the technical part so that you can have a spreadsheet you can work with. That is if you don't have Microsoft Excel installed on your system, okay? All right, let's get into the presentation. Okay, what is data? Let's start with a simple question. What is data? We'll talk about data analysis, data analysis. What exactly is this data? There is something we all have in common, right? We are all generators of data. Whether you're scrolling on your phone, whether you're surfing the web, whether you're shopping online, whether you're just going through your social media page, you are generating data. Even as I'm speaking with you right now, I'm currently generating data. The number of participants in this webinar is data we are generating, okay? So in fact, studies have shown that 90% of the world's data has already been created in the last 2 years, okay? That's how fast data and the digital universe is expanding. And this data is not just numbers on spreadsheets, okay? It's what drives modern business decisions, healthcare insights, product innovations, and social media trends. Okay? Can you mute the microphone?
It's something that you have to do with laptop. You have to sit down.
Okay, be together. So someone interjecting, please. Please mute your microphone. Okay, there's something all organizations have.
Recording it.
Okay.
I just hold my space
Sorry,
is enough
please,
to accommodate it.
please, can you mute your microphone? Okay. There's something every organization has in common. It is data. Okay. So what then is this data? It is the raw material, whether facts and figures we collect every day. For example, numbers, any number you can think of, 5, 10, 1 million, 1,000. Then also words like human, dog, text, basically. Then measurements like 6.5, 1.5. Then also observation, sunny, rainy, crying, sad, what have you. Then interactions on social media or web clicks, okay? Those are all data, okay? But this data, although it is powerful, it doesn't make sense without context, right? If I say 5, what does 5 mean? Okay, it's just like you have ingredients in the kitchen. On their own, they are just items. Except you start mixing them, processing them, and seasoning them, then they become a meal. It makes sense. That's exactly what data analysis does with data, okay? It transforms this raw data into insights that we can use to make smarter decisions. Okay, now the real question is, do we have enough data? Because we do have enough data. The real question is, is what are we doing with this data? And that is where data analysis and Excel comes in, okay? So Sherlock Holmes once said, data, data, data. I can't make bricks without clay, right? And I absolutely agree with Sherlock Holmes. Whether you're solving crimes, whether you're analyzing business performance, you can't build insight without data, okay? Without first gathering the right data. So now on to the next section, fundamentals of data analysis, okay? So what is data analysis, right? It is the process of collecting, transforming, and organizing that raw material, which is data, okay? For the purpose of uncovering insight, identifying patterns, making predictions, drawing conclusions, and to drive informed decision making. So let's take for instance, you notice that you have a very bad saving culture, and in the next year you want to improve in your saving culture. Now, the first thing you will do is to collect data, because you can't just start working without going back, as in looking back at history, right? You have to go back to your data. You get your bank statement, okay? That's where you start sniffing from. You collect your data, which is the bank statement. Then you go through your bank statement, okay? Because you want to know, okay, why am I not saving properly? Okay, where is my money going to? Okay, that's data you've collected and you're analyzing, okay? So you analyze that data to uncover patterns, your spending culture. Where am I spending more? Am I spending more on food or charity or whatever, okay? Then from there, you can now make informed decisions to improve your saving culture. Because if you just say, I want to save without going back, looking back at history and learning from the past, you won't really improve, okay? So that's what data analysis is all about. Data analysis is putting data to work. Now, there are some terminologies that people get confused, and I just want to, just touch on them. We already know what data analysis is, right? Collecting, cleaning, organizing, and interpreting data. Now, the goal of data analysis, okay, is to understand what happened in the past. Okay, that's the goal of data analysis. We want to look back, we want to go through our data and see, okay, what happened in the past and discover patterns. Okay, example is analyzing last year's sales data to identify top performing products. Now, those who analyze data are known as data analysts. Okay, and the tools they use, the popular tools they use is Excel, SQL, Tableau, and Power BI. Now, data analytics is data analysis plus statistical models and algorithms, okay? And the goal of data analytics is to understand why something is happening, okay? We want to know why this happened and also predict what could happen next, like weather forecasting, okay? You understand why it was raining at this time and they want to predict if it's going to rain next tomorrow or next year or whatever. So an example is building a dashboard that tracks sales trends and predicts next quarter's performance. Now, the profession or the occupation as a data analytics is data analyst or data analytics specialist, okay? Then the tool they use is also Excel, SQL, Power BI, R and Python. Now, data science, when you talk about innovation, you think about data science. Their goal is to create models that learn from data, okay? They create models and those models learn from data, okay? For example, you create a machine learning model that recommends products to customers based on their behavior. I don't know if you've seen, maybe when you're surfing the web and then you just get some adverts on the web, okay? That's data science. They've learned your behavior on the web, they've studied your behavior on the web, and they know the type of things you like, and they now start showing you those things, okay? That's what data science is all about. So, and the profession or the occupation in data science they are called data scientists, okay? And the tools they use, because they are more advanced, okay? They use tools like Python, R, Tensor, etc. Okay, like I said earlier, A data analyst is someone who collects, cleans, and organizes and interprets data, okay, to make informed, evidence-based decisions. Now, what are the skills you need as a data analyst? The first thing you need to have is a curious mindset, okay? Because you're going to get a lot of data and you don't want to feel overwhelmed if you're someone that just gets tired of looking at a lot of data, like a lot of information. You might just get tired easily. So you have to have a curious mindset to know what this data is saying to you, and you want data to talk to you and you want to talk to the data. So you have to have a curious mindset to understand what's going on. Secondly, you also need to have a critical and analytical thinking, okay? Critical and analytical thinking. What is critical and analytical thinking? That means you identify a problem, right? Ask the right questions, and then you follow a step-by-step approach, okay, to get your results, okay? So you have to think analytically, okay? Then thirdly, business understanding, because as a data analyst, you can work anywhere, okay? But for you to work anywhere, you have to have a domain knowledge of that organization. What are they into? What do they do? What are their standards? What does the products mean? You need to understand what that company is all about, what that business is all about. Okay, so you need to have an understanding of the business domain. Yes, you need to have a domain knowledge. Okay. For instance, if you want to work as a finance analyst, okay, a financial analyst, you need to understand what is tax, what is revenue, what is profit. You need to understand those terminology. So next, you also need to have data management skills, which we are going to learn today, and data analysis and visualization. You need to know how to visualize data, okay? And then lastly, communication and storytelling, because the whole idea of data analysis is to communicate to your stakeholders, okay? It's not just about calculating and having numbers, it's to communicate to your stakeholders. So you must have a good storytelling skill, okay? You must be able to tell the story in plain English to your stakeholders. So where can a data analyst work? A data analyst can work anywhere, provided that there is data, okay? Whether in finance, whether in marketing, healthcare, or technology, you can work anywhere as a data analyst, okay? So next, okay, data analysts, they follow 6 processes. I mean, there are different variations to this process, okay? Different people have their own variations to this process, okay? But for me, I like the 6, okay? There are 6 processes. The first step as you need to follow is to ask. Now, what is asking? You need to define the problem. In asking time, you need to define the problem and understand stakeholders' expectations. What do they want from me? It's not just getting data and start doing what you like. You need to know what your clients want. What does your customer need? Okay, what problem are they intending to solve? Okay, you need to understand those questions and define the problem, understand your stakeholders' requirements in the ask step. Next, you move on to prepare. Prepare is you collect your data and store the information, okay? You need to think about what type of data am I collecting for this problem we want to solve, okay? Because there are different types of data. There's qualitative data, there's quantitative data, there's structured data, and there's unstructured data, okay? Qualitative data is descriptive emotions, okay? Like I said, how you feel, sad, emotions, or ratings, okay? And there is quantitative. Quantitative data are numbers, okay? You're collecting numbers, that's quantitative data. So after you identify the type of data you want to collect, the next thing is, where do I store this data? Okay, you think about where do I want to store this data? Do I want to store it in a CSV file, that's comma separated values file, or I want to store it in an Excel sheet, or I want to store it in a structured query language, that's SQL, that's a database, okay? You think about those in the prepare stage. Next, after you figured out what data you want to collect and where you want to store it, we move on to the process step. Okay, in the process step, we clean this data, because most times data you're going to be getting is going to be dirty. We'll understand what this dirty data is later. Okay, so you need to clean this data in a way that is understandable and in a way that you can work with the data, because if you don't clean your data, you are going to get wrong results. You are definitely going to get wrong, inaccurate results. Okay, so in the process step, we clean and check for accuracies. Okay, then analyze. This is where you want to answer the questions that was asked in the first stage. Okay, you analyze the data with the intention to finding patterns and answering the question in the first stage. And after you analyze the data, you share. Okay, you want to share and communicate your data to your stakeholders. And most times, how you share is by using visualizations, using graphs, visual representations like graphs, charts. You use that to communicate to your stakeholders. Then lastly, they act. Okay, based on what you've told them, they act on your results to solve the problem. So these are the processes of data analysis. You ask, you prepare, you process, you analyze, you share, and you act. Okay, are we still together? I don't know if we're still together. I hope we're still together.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so some data analysis tools. You have spreadsheets. Okay, spreadsheets are powerful and versatile. Okay, they are used for storing, organizing, and sorting data. Spreadsheets, for example, Microsoft Excel is a spreadsheet. Google Sheets is a spreadsheet. And then we also have SQL, Structured Query Language. They are used to store, access, retrieve, and manage large data sets. Okay, example of SQL is MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, Oral Database, etc. And then we have visualization tools. Okay, these tools transform raw data into visual insights. Like I said, charts, graphs, and dashboards. Okay, you can to create visualizations, there are two tools that are popular, which is Power BI and Tableau. Okay, those are the most popular ones you see online. Then you also have programming tools. This is when you're going, advanced. Okay, like the data scientists. Okay, they have some programming tools they use. Okay, they're used for statistical analysis, automation, and machine learning. Then you now talk about Python, R programming, and the likes. Okay, so these are the data analysis tools required for data analysis. Okay, now the good thing about this is that you don't have to master all these tools to become a data analyst. No, you don't. Okay, most organizations even use only Excel to do their work and get their results. Okay, so don't feel overwhelmed. Don't feel pressure that you have to learn a lot of tools to become a data analyst. Just start from the basics, the simple one, Excel. Excel is very friendly and you can just work with that. Okay, you don't need to know all the tools. Okay, now we've gotten into the meat of the soup, right? Okay, this is why we're all here. Okay, so what is Microsoft Excel? Microsoft Excel is a spreadsheet application developed by Microsoft, okay, that allows users to organize, calculate, analyze, and visualize data efficiently. Okay, what are the key features of Excel? You can work with data in rows and columns. Then two, you can perform calculations. You can also create charts and graphs. And then you can also use pivot table, a very powerful feature in Excel, okay, for summarizing large data sets. You will see that towards the end of this webinar. So please get ready. And then you can also use Excel for tasks with pivot and Power Query. Okay, so for this demonstration, we are going to familiarize ourselves with Excel interface. We're going to do some basic data entry and formatting, and we're also going to learn about formulas and functions, tables, and data visualization. So can you confirm to me that you have you have access to Microsoft Excel in the comment section. Okay, like, have you been able to access the spreadsheet on the Microsoft website? For those of you that don't have Excel, can you confirm to me on the comment section? Okay, Padi, Amina said yes. Okay, so if you haven't, sorry. Okay, so if you don't have Microsoft Excel installed on your system, like I said earlier, just go to excel.new, and it will bring you to this page. Sign up and you get a free Excel spreadsheet to work with. Okay. Okay. Now, can we see my sheets? Can you see my spreadsheet, please? Can we all see my spreadsheet? Okay, I believe we can. So I will just go on. Okay, someone said it's actually downloading his. Okay, you might not have much time to download yours. You can just work with that online spreadsheet and that's fine. Okay. Okay, so we're going to familiarize ourselves with the anatomy of Excel. Okay, so if you have Excel installed on your system, you just go to your search bar. That is, you go to your search bar on your laptop or your desktop and just type Excel. Okay, and when you type Excel, you just click on this icon, this Microsoft Excel icon. Just tap on it, and it's going to open a new page, a new Excel page for you. Okay. Okay, so now let me take you back down the memory lane when you were in primary school or probably secondary school. You know how you go to a bookstore and you buy an exercise book, right, for a particular subject. Okay, so now that book you're holding, you call it an exercise book. In Excel, we call it a workbook. Okay, so this is a workbook. This is an Excel workbook. So when you buy that exercise book in primary school, the next thing you do is that you reserve it or you designate it for a particular subject, right? So, and you write your name, then you say, okay, this book, I'm saving it for mathematics. I'm saving this book for English. The same thing we do here in Excel, okay? This workbook, we're going to save it and reserve it for something, okay? For instance, if you look up here, just up on top of my screen, you see that we haven't saved it. It's just saying book one, okay? Book one doesn't make sense. Whatever you're saving has to be meaningful, okay? So for instance, I'm going to assume that we're going to save this workbook as a budget workbook. For instance, you want to save or have a budget, monthly budget, okay? So you want to use this workbook for your monthly budget. So you just come to this menu bar tab, file, you click on file, and when you click on file, click on save as, okay? And then you rename the workbook to rename it as budget, okay? And when you rename it as budget, it's going to save the file as an XLSX file, okay? That's the extension for Excel. And when you click save, okay, that already exists. So, okay, so now your workbook is saved, and when you look up at the top of your screen, you'll see the name of your workbook. Okay, now let's go back to that exercise book again. When you flip through the exercise book, you see some pages, right? So the same thing with Excel. Okay, Excel has at least one page, one sheet, okay, available to you. At least whenever you open Excel workbook, you will see a sheet. So when you look down the lower part of your screen, I hope we're seeing that. I don't know if you're seeing. Are we seeing the lower part of my screen? I believe we are. Okay, right, Abby? Okay. Anyways, if you're seeing it, you will see sheet 1, okay, at the lower part of my screen. Okay, so pages in exercise book, sheets in Excel workbook, okay? And now you can also rename this sheet. I want to rename it, instead of saying sheet 1, because sheet 1 doesn't actually make sense, right? I want to make it, name it something that we're familiar with, that when we open this workbook next time, we can remember what we did on that sheet, okay? So I'm going to rename it. To rename it, you right click on the sheet, and it's going to bring out this menu option, and then you click on rename. Okay, so when you click on rename, we can call it budgets. Let's say budget for January. Okay, budget _ January. Okay, and just clicking outside the tab, you've saved it. Okay, next you can add more sheets. You're not just limited to one sheet. You add more sheets. You add more sheets by just clicking on the arrow. Okay, click on the arrow here. So when you click on the cross sign there, you can add multiple sheets. Okay, you can also rename them again as February. Okay, and etc. 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 Okay, so you have sheet 1, budget January, and we also have another sheet. Okay, so now those are the pages. Okay, now each sheet contains a giant grid. Okay, and this giant grid is the vertical line you're seeing here, and then the horizontal line. Okay, and the vertical lines, they are called columns in Excel. Okay, they are called columns, and the horizontal line are called rows. Okay, and then the columns are represented by alphabet. A, B, C, D are all columns, and the rows are represented as numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and etc. Okay, so now each row, okay, before then, I want to show you that Excel has enough rows, right, to store your data. So when you click on Control, hold down Control on your keyboard and click on and press down the down arrow key. Again, I'll say that again. Control, press down Control and the down arrow key on your keyboard. Okay, you can see that Excel has about 1 million rows available to you. Okay, 1 million rows available to you. And then if you want to go back to the top, just do the same thing. Press down arrow Control and the up arrow key. Okay, and then you're back up, okay, to the top. Then if you want to see the numbers of columns Excel have, because it has about 60,000 columns, you just do Control and the right arrow key, and then you get to the last column in Excel. Okay, and then to go back again, what do? Control and the left arrow key, and then we are back. Okay, I hope you all got that. Those are some shortcuts you can use in Excel. Okay, now, so we just talked about the columns and the rows. The intersection between a column and a row, right, forms a cell. Okay, the intersection between a column and a row forms a cell. Okay, so this is cell, this block is a cell, this block is a cell, and this block is a cell, right? So you can put numbers or text in the cell. Okay, I can put a text like this in the cell. Okay, I can also put numbers in the cell, like 5 in the cell, by just clicking on the cell I want, any cell I want, and just inserting the data I want into that cell. Okay, and now the intersection between the columns and the row forms a cell, and each cell has an address. Okay, just the way you're living somewhere, you have an address. In Excel, every cell also have an address. Now, how is this address formed? This address is formed by combining the column and the row. By combining the column and the row, right? So the combination of these would be the cell address for this block I'm in currently. This active cell will be A1. Okay, the column is A and the row is 1. Okay, 1. So the cell address for this is A1. The cell address for this is B2. I mean B1. Sorry, B1. So can someone tell me in the comment section what is the cell address for this active cell I'm currently in? Okay, in the comment section, please. I need someone. I want to make sure that I'm not talking to myself. So this current cell or current block or active cell I'm currently in, can someone tell me what is the address for this where you have my name in it? Okay, someone said F7. If you said F7, you're wrong. K7, right. So K7 is accurate, okay? So this is K7. Thank you. Thank you very much. I see that we're together. Okay, so now another feature of Excel, another part of Excel is the formula bar, okay? Where I'm currently in is called the formula bar, okay? And in the formula bar, you can see a text or you can see a formula. For instance, in algebra, you say 2 plus 4 equals to something, okay? That's a formula, for instance. In Excel, when you click here, it changes it to a formula, okay? That's the formula bar. And now, another part of Excel is called the name box. The name box easily shows you the address of the cell you're currently in, okay? So instead of cracking your head, trying to figure out where's the column, where is the row, you can just look at the name box and you will see the name, the current cell you're in. If I click on this place now, I'm currently in F5, okay? So Excel also has something we call the menu bar. Okay, I'm doing this for those who are new to Excel. I don't want to assume that everyone is new. I mean, everyone can use Excel, okay? So we have the menu bar, and in the menu bar, we have different tabs, okay? We have the home tab, and we have the insert tab. And when you click on each tab, it brings out a different option, okay? It brings out the different options, okay? And in the home tab, you have options for formatting your font. You have options for aligning your text or your data. You have options for changing a format, okay? Different formatting options. Then in the insert also, you have the option to insert a particular visualization. Same goes for all the rest of the tabs in Excel, okay? Now, a group of cell makes up a range, okay? A group of cell makes up a range, and you can highlight a range by just holding down your left button and dragging, okay? It will highlight a range, okay? So if, let's say I have these data here, okay, and I want to highlight this range, I just click on the first cell and I drag. Okay, now can someone tell me the address for this range? Because every cell has a range. Okay, so what would be their every cell has an address, and a range also have address. Okay, so can you tell me what would be the address in the comment section for these highlighted cells? Okay, in the comment section, can anyone tell me what the address would be when you have a combination of cells? Okay, someone said A1 to B4. The person is actually correct. Thank you very much. So how do you get the address for a group of cells? Okay, the first cell is a combination of the first cell and the last cell. Okay, that's how you get the address for a group, for a range. Okay, so let's say you have, so that would be A1, then you separate it with a column and then say B4. Okay, so that's A1 and B4 forms a combination, the cell, the range address for these highlighted cells. Okay. Okay, so in Excel, you can also insert a new column. Okay, if I want to insert a new column here, I just right click and options will come out and I click insert. Okay, and you can also delete a cell you don't want by just right clicking and deleting. Okay, so in Excel, you have different arrows. The arrows you're currently seeing, right, is called the select arrow. Okay, the selection arrow. So I can select this and I select this. It's a selection arrow. But once I put my cursor at the edge of the box, it changes. The arrow changes. Okay, then a different arrow. And that arrow is called the move arrow. Okay, I can move this item in this cell to another box by just holding down and dragging. Okay, it's to move to another cell. It's called the move arrow. Okay, and then there's another arrow we have. It's called the fill handle. Okay, so if I have C1 here and I want to, instead of me typing C1, C2, C3, right, I can use the fill handle. Okay, and you get the fill handle out by clicking the lower, the bottom right corner of the cell. Okay, and then you drag. Okay, so and it fills the cell based on the first cell. Okay, it fills the cell based on the first cell. Okay, so that's how, those are the different arrows in Excel. Okay, so next we're going to learn how to enter data. Okay, so we have gotten ourselves familiar with the Excel environment. So let's say we're trying to create an employee record data. So to insert data into a cell, you just start typing. Okay, you just start typing. So I'm going to try and create an employee record, information, right? So in employee record, you have different information. Let's say we want the surname. Again, you just click on the cell and you start typing. Okay, let's say we want the surname, first name. Again, you move to the next column. You just use the keys on your keyboard. Okay, the right key is just to move to the next column, right? Then you have the, let's say we need the department, email address, phone numbers of employees. Okay, you just enter the data by just typing into the cell. Okay, let's say we need the salaries, the days employed. Okay, that's enough data that we need. Okay, now I'm going to populate some names, okay, into the cell. Uh, just random data, okay, just to show you how to enter data and format data, okay. Okay, you just enter data by just typing, okay. Then phone number. We'll get back to that. Let's just try and populate some data. Okay, because of that, because of time, I will just copy and paste, and we're going to assume. Let's just use our fill handle again to just populate different data. Okay, so we have marketing, we have HR, we have admin. Again, just populate the data, just copy and assume. So to copy and paste, you can use Ctrl+C on your keyboard and you copy the item. And then for pasting, Ctrl+V. So to copy this data, I just press Ctrl+C to copy, and then I click on the cell I want to paste, and then I press Ctrl+V. Okay. So if I want to copy it, populate it in more than one cell, you just hold click, then you drag down. Ctrl+V again. Then again, we have different phone numbers. I'll come back to these. Then numbers, let's just populate different numbers. Why do I like 45? Okay. Okay. Then salary, let's just say 300. Say 150, just populate some numbers. Okay, then again, different dates. Notice that when you drag down on a date, Excel assume that you want to populate the date. Okay, so when you drag down, it moves to the next date, which is 13, because Excel has dates installed. Okay, in the memory, there's a memory that stores dates. So when you drag down, it just increases the date for you. So if you don't want to increase the date, you can just copy and just paste that same date. Okay, if you want to maintain the same date, but once you drag down, it populates different dates for you. Okay, now we have our sample data. Okay, and now when you click on this column, the data we have here is a text. Okay, but Excel is going to call it general. That means it's just going to say it's just a general format. It doesn't have a real format, but we want to format it as a text. Okay, so we're going to change, because I'm just going to do this at once for the 3 cells because they are text. Okay, so that we don't waste too much time. You click again and then you drag to select a range. Okay, and then you change the format to what? Text. There are different formats. You have general, number, currency, accounting, short date, etc. But for this, we know that this is a text, and you just have to scroll down and then you see text, and you change it to text so that those fields will be in a text format. Okay. You can also put your email also in a text format. Okay. Now, you notice that when I put in a number, sorry, let me do that again. 0, 0. Okay. Excel is already going ahead of itself. Let's put it in general, not text. Okay, so when I put in a number 080, for instance, okay, let me use another place. Okay, basically the default setting of Excel is when you put in a number, it removes the first 0. It removes it. Why? Because Excel doesn't store numbers starting from 0. Okay, so it just removes the 0. So if you want that 0 to still be there and as a phone number, you need to change the format to a text. Okay, you change it to a text so that you can still have that 0 in front of it. So if I put 0 now, the number, the phone number stays complete with the 0 in front of it, okay? So we're going to format this cell as a text because we want the first 0 to be displayed, okay? We put in other numbers. Okay, so we have our phone numbers, for instance. So in Excel, Excel stores text to the left and numbers to the right, okay? So that's why you have all text formatted by default to the left and why the numbers are formatted to the right, okay? In Excel, that's how it's formatted. So since this is a number, we're going to change this format to what? A number, okay? And now, our ages are not in decimal places, right? So we need to remove those decimals. And to do that, you click on this arrow in this number option here. You click on this arrow, you see it says decrease decimal, okay? So we want to remove those decimal points. So we click on those arrows, and when you click on it, it removes the arrows, okay? Now, for salaries, this is also a number, right? So we're going to change that to a number format, okay? Now, salaries are not just numbers. They are also currencies, right? They are currencies, okay? So we're going to add currencies to these numbers, okay? And to do that, you come back to this formatting option and change it to, okay, let's use the first I want to show you something. So you click on currency, okay? And that will add a currency to that number, okay? To that figure or value. Okay, but now we're in Nigeria now. We're not using pounds, right? We're using Naira. And if you want to change that to a Naira symbol, you go back to your options, this down arrow here, you click on it, and then you go to more number formats. More number formats. You click on that, and when you click on that, you see more options will come up. Okay, so we are in the currency menu, and under the currency menu, you can see you have the pound symbol here, right? But we don't want the pound, so you click on this arrow here, and then you scroll down. Okay, and when you're scrolling down, you see different options for currency. Okay, but we're looking for the Naira in Nigeria, so we're going to click on any of these will work. So you click on the Naira side, and it's going to add the Naira symbol or currency to that figure. Can you see that? Okay, and then there's another way of doing this. You can do that using the accounting format, okay? So now, when you use the accounting format, it does the same thing, but a little bit prettier. It's prettier than currency, right? Currency joins things together, but for accounting, it gives space, okay, to make it neat and understandable. For me, I prefer using accounting, okay? So now, again, we are not using pounds, so we're going to do the same thing by clicking on the arrow, going to more number format, and then we change the currency by scrolling down and choosing the Naira option, okay? Okay, now it looks nice and better. Okay, instead of wasting so much time, to save time, because Excel ensures that you save time, okay? It wants to make sure that you're saving time. So you, instead of just going to each block cell and trying to change the format, one by one, there's something you can do, okay? You click on the cell that has the desired format that you want, then you go look at your top right, you will see a formatting, something like a paintbrush, okay? It's called a format paint. What it does is it picks a format from a particular cell and then applies it to other cells that you want, okay? So I'm going to click on it, and then I'll come down here and apply this format to the rest of the cells, okay? And voila, we have the same format, okay? So we'll do the same thing for the one above. We click on it, and then voila, and that changes it, okay? And then you save time. Now, when you look here, you can see we have dates, okay? Excel recognizes this as dates already. So the formatting option there is already saying date. So we are good with that, okay? So next, now we want to make our sheet pretty, okay? Because right now it's just looking funny. We want it to look presentable, okay? Presentation is key in data analysis. Okay, so to make this presentable, let's say that we're going to first of all add a border to this, okay? Now, first of all, we want to make our titles different from the items, okay? We want to make it different. So we highlight by holding down your left keyboard, your mouse, holding down your left mouse and dragging, okay? That's one way. Another way you can do that is holding down Control and Shift, and then the right arrow key on your keyboard. Control and Shift, then it highlights all the information. Control and Shift and the arrow key, right arrow key, and it will highlight everything. But if you don't want to do it at once, you want to do it one by one, just do Shift and the right arrow key, Shift and the right arrow key. You go back again, Shift and the left arrow key. Okay, so that's how you highlight items in Excel. Okay, so we want to make our headers distinct, okay? So we add, if you come up to your font format, you can see B. B stands for bold, okay? Making it bold. So we apply the bold, and then you see that our text is more glaring, okay? The next thing we want to do is to add a border to it, okay? So we do that by coming to this little box with dotted borders, okay? So you click on this arrow key, and then you see different options, okay? For us, we want all borders around the items. So we click on all borders, and then we've added a border to this data, okay? It's looking nice and clean. Another thing we can do is to add colors, okay? To differentiate if we want to differentiate our title more from the items, we can add colors, okay? Font colors, okay? So you can come up here, you see something like a bucket of paint dropping down. You click on the arrow sign, and then you choose whatever color you want. If you don't like any of these colors, you can click on more colors to have more colors. So you click on any color. I love the dark blue color anytime. So now we can see that our letters, our text is not it's not visible. So the next thing you can do is to change the font color. Okay, there's an option for you to change the font color where you see the A symbol with a color beneath it. So you click on that A symbol, and then you change the font color. You can see as I hover through the colors, the color of the text changes. Okay, so for this, I want the color white. Okay, another thing we can do is to align our title. Okay, using an alignment, you can click on the middle. It's going to centralize your text. Okay, right? And then for me, I don't like, for this information, I think I'm okay with the left alignment. Okay, you can either align it by your left, right, etc. Okay, now we have something a little bit good. We want to also make our heading, glaring, okay, because it's a title. We want it to be neat. Okay, to do that, we can merge this. There's something called merge. We can merge a column, okay? And to merge a column is by clicking on this option here, merge and center, okay? So when I click on it, it's going to merge all those cells, so cell A to H together, okay? And now because this is a header sort of, you have to increase the font so that it's different, it's distinct from all other items, okay? And you can do that by clicking on this arrow, yeah, and then you see different sizes, okay, that you can change your fonts to. So if I hover on them, you can get as big as this, okay? But for these, the font size 16 or 18, it's okay, okay? So then we can also add the bold feature, we can add the color and then white. Nice. Remember, we can also delete this cell by right-clicking and deleting. So these two colors are sort of merging. So let's make this something different, something like that. Okay, so I think I'm fine with this. So this is how to enter data and format data. Now, one more thing I would like to show you is called conditional formatting. Okay, aside manually formatting, we can tell Excel that, okay, if there's this, you can say if there's this condition, format the cell as this. If the cell has this criteria, format the cell to this. Okay, for instance, now let's say we add another information. We want to add status. Okay, let's say we want to retire some employees. Okay, when I right click and press insert, it's going to pick the format of this former role. Okay, so it makes it faster for you. So let's say we want to add this item status. Okay, so we want to retire any employee that is 50 and above. Okay, so we want to tell Excel, okay, we want to tell Excel, sorry. So we want to tell Excel to format any employee that is 50 and above. Let me add more information. Let's just say this is, or 45 and above, or 40 and above. Okay, so we are like this cell. You are like the cell you want to format, conditional format, and then you click on the conditional formatting. Then you see highlight cells rules. Okay, Excel already has different options. We won't say, okay, I want to highlight any the cells that are greater than a certain number, or less than, or between, or equal to, etc. Okay, so in this instance, we want to highlight cells that are greater than, let's say, greater than 25. Okay, and at a glance, you can see that Excel has highlighted every data that is greater than 25. Okay, you can also do that for all data. Let's say we want to change it to data that is lesser than let's say 50. Okay, lesser than 50. Okay, it's also highlighting 50 because we didn't say lesser than or equals to. Okay, let's say lesser than 45. Okay, there's already a rule there. That's why. Okay, so we need to remove that rule. We come to manage rules. Then we have to clear this rule first, so that I want to delete this rule. So you delete rule here by clicking this. Okay. Okay, so now I can try that again. So I want to highlight rows, cells that are lesser than, let's say, 30. Okay, and you see that Excel will highlight only 25. Okay, so also we can also do that with text. Okay, aside number. Let's say we have female, male, female, male. Let's say we have gender here, for instance. Okay, I want to tell Excel to highlight based on text, right? So conditional form, we're going to our conditional formatting, and then we say any text that contains, let's say, F, for instance, and we click OK, and then it will highlight all cells that contains F. So that is how to format, enter data and format in Excel. Next, we go to formulas. There's something called formulas. I hope we're together. Are we together? Okay, so we're going to look at formulas and functions quickly. Okay, again, your algebra, how you say 2 plus, if I want to add these numbers that are here, I will say 45 plus 70 in school, right? And say equals to, and then expect a result. But Excel is not going to take that as a formula, okay? It doesn't work that way. It works in the reverse, okay? It starts with, to add a number, you have to start with the equals to sign, and then you say 45 plus, sorry, you start with the equals to sign, and then you say 45 plus 70. Then Excel is going to bring out a result, okay? So Excel works in the reverse order. You start with the equals to sign, then you add the numbers together. Okay, now, this is a good way to add number, but it's going to be stressful. So Excel is what you call self-referencing, okay? Instead of me typing equals to 67 plus 52, and doing that for all of the cells, Excel has what you call self-referencing, okay? So we're going to use self-referencing to make our work easy, okay? Now, to reference the cell, you say equals to, and then you click on this cell, okay? The cell you want to reference, okay? And what do you see? You see B5. B5 is the address of this cell. Do we remember that? The address of the cell is B5. That's why you're seeing B5 here. If you look up here at the name box, you'll see B5, okay? And then the next, want to insert the operator we want to use, which is plus, okay? The plus sign. And then you click on the next number, and then it's going to pick the cell address for that cell we just clicked on, okay? That's C5. And when you press enter, Excel gives you that same result. You see how fast that is, right, in calculating. So now, instead of going and typing again equals to, clicking on the cell reference and clicking plus sign, and then clicking on the cell reference again and pressing enter, what we can do to save time, because you're going to work with large data, you can just use what again? The fill handle. You can do that by dragging down, okay? And when you drag down, you notice that Excel does the calculation for you, okay? It works with the pattern of the first cell, which we had a formula saying equals to B5 plus C5. So when you press enter and you drag that same formula downwards, it will populate that formula for the rest, okay? Look here again. This time it's referencing C6 and B6, okay? In the next cell is going to reference B7 and C7, okay? So that's how Excel works. Now take a look at something. Do you notice something? Okay. Here we have the number 115, but when you look at the formula bar, it's going to display the formula and not the results, okay? It will display the formula and not the result. So if you are wondering, okay, what formula is in this cell given to you, by just checking the formula bar, you will see the formula that is inside the cell. Now, Excel can also do subtraction, other subtraction, other mathematical operations, right, etc. So I'm not going to waste time with that. So you just drag again and to populate. If you want to align this, you come to the alignment section, click on align, and to align that, okay? The same for multiply, equals to 45, and Excel uses asterisk as multiplication sign, and then you click on the next cell and then it multiplies, okay? The same goes for the division also. Click on equals to, click on the first cell, divide, and click on the next cell, enter, and then you have your division results, okay? And then you populate. So that's the basic arithmetics that you can perform in Excel. Now, aside formulas, there's something called functions. There are some things called functions, okay? Functions are already predefined instructions given to the computer, okay, that you can reuse again and again. That's function. You know how we have plus now? Every time we're doing plus, adding here. Excel or the Excel team already know that addition or sum is a popular operation that we want to be doing every time. So instead of allowing clients or people to type the plus, they have now coded that operation, okay, into a function, okay, and that function is called sum, okay, sum. Okay, so let's say we have this sales data from January to December, and we want to know the total sales. Okay, now am I going to start typing equals to, clicking on each of them one by one, clicking on each of the cells one by one? It will be very stressful and time consuming. Okay, so but Excel, I mean the Microsoft team, they've predefined this calculation or operation into a function. Okay, so now what is that function? The function is called sum. The function is called sum. Okay, now the good thing about Excel is that it's very intuitive. Okay, look at, they've already given you tips telling you what the sum function does. Okay, to call that function, you say equals to sum, and instead it adds all the numbers in a range, right? It adds all the numbers in the range. So now to use this sum function, just click on the tab. Okay, when you say equals to sum, click on your tab, the tab on your keyboard. Okay, and then you start imputing the cell range. For you to impute, don't type, just click on the first cell and then you drag. Okay, you drag, and when you drag the cell, drag all the cells, then it calls the cell range, that is M5, remember M, column M and 5, to the last cell, column X and 5. Okay, then you close the bracket and then you press enter, and now Excel has calculated it using the sum function. Okay, you see how easy that is? Instead of going one by one and typing each cell reference again, we use our fill handle again by just, so we use our fill handle by just dragging down. Okay, and now since these are numbers, let's make them look good. Okay, you can do that by just using the comma sign. Okay, and then if you want to reduce the decimal points, like I said earlier, you can do that. You can increase by clicking the arrow that is looking at your left. You can increase it, and you can decrease by using the arrow going to the right. Okay, then again, there are other functions apart from the sum. Okay, we have average, max, and mean. Okay, we already know what the sum function is like and how it works. Okay, and then we get our answer. Right now, to populate this, you can just drag also to your right and to do the whole calculation. Voila. Okay, and it has summed all your columns. So for January, we have a total sum of 400,200. So we can also calculate average. How do you calculate average? You calculate average by calling the average function. Okay, so you say equals to, and then click on average and call average. Okay, again, you have the help, the tooltip there. Okay, it says returns the average arithmetic mean. Okay, so then you call it fully by clicking on your tab sign. Okay, and then again we want to call the cell range, and then you press enter. Then now the average sales made in January was 40,020 naira. Okay, so if you want to find the maximum sales made in January, you can call the max sign too by clicking, say, by calling equals to, I'm calling max. Okay, it says returns the largest value in the set of values. Okay, so then again we highlight our cell range and then we press enter. Then you can see from here that the maximum sale, even looking at it, okay, doing a using your eye observation, you can see that 80,000 is the maximum sale, okay, in January. And then the max function has helped us call the maximum sale just by a simple calculation, okay? You can also do that for mean. And in the mean, you call the send range, and then you have, so the least number of sale is 6,000, okay? So now, again, you don't need to start calculating for each cell, just drag and drop, and then it populates the same formula for each of the cells, okay? So those are some popular functions in Excel. Now, other functions we have is count, okay? To use the count function, you know, there's sometimes you might want to count some things here. Instead of saying 1, 2, 3, 4, you use the count function, okay? You just say equals to and call the count function. Now, what does this count function do? It counts the number of cells in a range that contains only numbers, okay? Only numbers. So let's see how it works. So again, we analyze the cell range, and then we close the brackets and press enter, and then it counts 4. Okay, you're saying, oh, there are 5 items here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why am I seeing only 4? You're seeing only 4 because the count function counts only numbers. It doesn't count any other thing. It just counts number, okay? But the count A function counts as long as there's an item in the cell, it's going to count it, okay? So if you want to count is cells that has whatever type of data inside it, you use the count A, okay? So we say equals to count A, okay? And then you call the cell range again and close brackets, press enter, and you see that you have 5, number 5, because you count here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? So count A is used for counting items, whatever items in a cell. Now, you also have count blank, okay? It counts the number of empty cells. Let's call count blank, okay? See, count the number of empty cells in a specified range. So I call that. Now, if we want to guess, I would have asked you to guess what's going to return. But we don't have time. So, but if we use the count black, it's going to return 0. People are like, oh, but here there's no number now. Why is it not counting here as 0 as 1? No, it's not going to count that as 1 because the cell contains an information, a text. Okay, so not available is not. It doesn't mean that the cell is empty. But watch this. Let's say I remove this data. I delete it. Guess what happens? Okay, it changes it to 1 because that's counted an empty cell. This cell is empty. So we have 1 empty blank cell. Okay, and then you notice that other numbers also change. Other formulas also change because we have only 3 cells that contains just number, and we have 4 cells that contains items. I hope you understand how the count function works. Okay, so that is that. Okay, so now percentage calculations. Okay, we can also do percentage in Excel. So to calculate the formula for calculating percentage of a whole is you say equals to a part, okay, and then we use the division sign. Okay, division in Excel, it is your front. It's your forward slash, okay? Division is your forward slash on your keyboard, okay? And then you call this cell the whole. Okay, let's say you have 600,000 naira as your salary, and then you have a budget, okay? And you want to know for each budget, what is the percentage I'm spending, okay? So you take the parts divided by the whole, okay? And then you press enter and Excel calculates. But what's happening here? Excel is giving us the results as a decimal point, okay, as decimals. So, but we want to change this. So to change this, you just look up here where you have number format, and then you click on the percentage sign. and then it changes it to a percentage. Okay, so that's how you calculate percentage in Excel. Now, notice something. Normally, we usually use the field undo to populate the formula so that it will be fast and we get our result, right? But now Excel is throwing an error. Why is it throwing an error? It's throwing an error because we are telling it to divide a part by 0. Let's confirm this. When I double click on it and I look at the formula, it's saying AM6 divided by AQ5. Okay, AQ5 is this cell here. So Excel is saying you're telling me to divide by 0, and I can't divide by 0. So how do we fix this? In Excel, there's something we call absolute referencing and relative referencing. Okay, so relative is that Excel populates the formula according to the position, like the position where the cells are. Okay, so it moves one step, it changes position. That's relative, changing position. Okay, so if I populate this formula, it's going to move one step to a cell. Okay, that's how it moves in Excel. But if we don't want Excel to move one step above or one step ahead of the cell, what we do is to lock the cell. Okay, we can lock the cell. And to lock a cell, now in this case, we want to change it to absolute referencing. Absolute referencing is locking the cell, like stay in the same position. Don't move one step further. Okay, so for me to do that, I'll just come to this formula. Now, what cell do I want to lock? I want to lock AQ4. Okay, this address AQ4. Okay, so to lock that cell, I just need to use the $sign. Okay, the $sign. So I press the $sign in front of the alphabet and a $sign in front of the numbers, and it's going to lock that cell. Okay, so I have locked the cell. I've locked Excel saying don't move one step further, just stay on AQ4. So let's see if this is going to work. So when we drag and populate the formula again, voila, we have locked that cell and Excel is able to provide us with the result. So those are formulas. Okay, that's how formulas work in Excel. Now, there are also text functions in Excel. Okay, let's say we want to join text together. You don't want the first name and last name separate. You want to join text together. There are 3 ways you can do this. Okay, you can say equals to. You can say equals to. You call the first cell. Then you use and. I'm going to be very fast now because of our time. So you can watch the recording later. Okay, so you say this is and a space. Okay, because we want a space in between our text. Okay, and you can't just put space like this in Excel. Okay, it's not going to work. Okay, say space and then you now call this cell and then you close it. It's not going to work. It's going to give you a joint text and it doesn't make sense. Okay, and in Excel you want to make your data meaningful, right? So to do that, we're going to add a space. But for you to have a space, you have to put it in 2 columns. Okay, sorry, quotation marks. Sorry, quotations. Okay, and then you click space, put quotation, and then you click the and you press and again. Okay, and you press enter, and then now you have a clean name. Okay, that is too much or that's too long for you to remember. Another method you can use, Excel has already provided you a function called concat. And to do that, you just say equals to concat. Okay, it says concatenate a list or range of text strings. Okay, concat, and then you call a bell again, that's cell B6. Now again, we want space in our data, okay, in between our data. So we're going to click, we're going to put it in a quotation mark. Okay, say comma. can see that Excel is highlighting, it's showing you what to type. It gives you a guide, okay? So you put your space in a quotation mark, and then you press comma again, and then you call the next cell you want to concatenate, and then you close your bracket and you press enter. Okay? And so that's another way to concatenate text. You can also use in new Excels, there's some Excel like the text join, okay? Text join also concatenates, but it's written in a different way. You have to start with a delimiter. A delimiter is if I want to put instead of putting a space, it's a separator. That's what a delimiter is, a separator basically. So instead of putting space, let's say I want to put dots in between the names, okay? So I put the dots in a quotes, okay, because these are strings, okay? You have to put them in a quotes, okay? Then you type comma. Again, Excel is guiding you. Then the next thing is to call the cell. Sorry. So if you wanted to ignore any empty cell, you can say true, right? And then the first text is Abel, and the next text is Usman, and then you close, and then to give you the same result. You can see our dots, okay? That's the delimiter, that's the separator. So let's say you want to say it's an email. You can use the dots to join two names together to form an email, okay? So you can try that by just dragging again to do the same. The formula will do the same thing for the next cell. So next, there are other string functions. Okay, these are text functions. The last time we looked at numeric functions, these are text functions. So let's say we want to make this name all capital letters. There's something called proper. Okay, so a function called proper, you say equals to proper, and then you click on the text and press enter. Okay, all caps. For all capital letters, you say up, converts a text string to all capital letters, and then it makes it all capital letters. Okay, so if you want to say text to lower, if you want them in all lower case, you call lower again, and then you click on this, you reference the cell, and then all the letters will be turned to lowercase, okay? And if you want a sentence case text, you say equals to proper, right? And then you reference the cell, and then you change it to a proper sentence case, okay? Now, in instances here where we have extra spaces, you can see here it's in John, but there's a space. We have extra space here. If I close it now, you see this is a normal space, but there are spaces in between here. So there are sometimes in your data, when you get dirty data, you'll see spaces like that because some people will impute in different ways, okay? So you want to remove those spaces. And to do that, use a function called trim, okay? You say equals to trim, okay? Trim, you can see the two tips. It says it removes all spaces from a text string except for single spaces between the words, okay? So when I call trim and I reference the text again, and then I have a normal, nice looking text, 18 John. Okay, so again, we can populate this data for the rest, okay? There are other text functions that we have here. Let's say we have country codes and want to get only the country abbreviations. We use a function called equals to left, okay? And then you reference the cell, and then you put a comma. Now, Excel is asking you how many characters do you want to take from the left, okay? Because we want only the country abbreviations. So how many characters should I take from the left? So you start counting because I want NGA. How many characters, number characters are those? That's 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to write 3. I need just the abbreviation, country abbreviation, and I click and I close the brackets and I press enter, and guess what? I get only the abbreviations for the country. Okay, let's say we want only the numbers, okay? The code, the number. In Nigeria, we say +234, right? So what will be the numbers? So we can use equals to write function, okay? The write function. And then we reference the text, and then we start counting from our right. 1, 2, 3. Again, we need only the three number characters, okay? And then we press enter, and then we get only the code. Okay, let's say we want to know the length of how many numbers are in this text, okay? We can do that by using the function length. Len, okay? It returns the number of characters in a text string. So we reference our text again, and then it tells you how many numbers you have in this string, in this text, okay? You can also get the middle number. You can get some characters basically from that text. If you don't want to get from the left or right, you want to get middle characters, okay? We can use mid, okay? So what is the text? We cell reference that text again. What number should we start from? Let's say we want to get just A_2, okay? So the starting number will be 1, 2, 3. A is number 3 in this text, okay? So we say 3. Then if we want the last number, it's asking how many numbers of characters do you want from this? So because we want A_2 plus 3 characters, so we put 3 too, okay? And then we close the bracket, and then you see we have A_2. So Excel has a lot of functions that you can work with. You populate this data again, and to give you the same results. Okay. So while I'm talking about the next function, can someone just type in the comment section if I want to get the country code for this text, right? The country code for this text. Can you just type in what function we use? Why I discussed the other one. Okay, I'll be looking at the comment section. Please type in what function or what formula will I use to get just the country code ZAF. Okay, just type it in the comment section. I'll be looking at it. Okay, I'm waiting for your results. Okay, so in Excel, we also have dates, okay? Now, there are date functions. Let's say you're working with a lot of data and you don't want all the dates. You want only the date, the day, okay? So you can do that using the day function, call equals to and say day. I'm waiting for your reply. I haven't seen anybody type in what function and what is the formula will I use to get ZAF, the country abbreviation ZAF. Okay, so you say you call the day function, okay, and then you call the cell referencing again, and it's going to give you only the day, okay? It's going to give you only the day, okay? Now, if you want to get the month also, you call equals to, and then click on the month function, returns the month in number, right? So you click on the cell reference, and then you close the bracket, and then you have only the month. Let's say you want the year. I've only gotten one response. I'm only seeing one person typing, one response. I'm waiting for your answer. What do you think the result, the formula would be for this ZAF_27? I want to get only the abbreviation ZAF. Okay, so if I want to get the year, just the year from this date, we call, like you guessed it, year, the function year. Then you click on this serial, the cell reference, and you close, and it gives you only the year. Okay, any answer? Okay, most people are saying left L7. Okay, I'm getting different answers. Left K7/3. Okay, so if you said left L7, you are wrong. Okay, if you said left L7, because you're saying equals to left L7. You're calling L7. Where is L7? This is L7, okay? And there is no information there. If I say L7, there is no information there, okay? We need the cell that has the text, okay? So you say left, and you click on this column. It's going to be K8, okay? I'm guessing it's because people are not on your system, or you're a little bit far. That's why you're getting the cell referencing wrong, okay? So if you say left and just L7, you are wrong, because it's going to populate, it's going to give you the first letter, okay? It's wrong. So you're going to say left K8, okay, and the number of characters you want. So I want the abbreviation ZAF, okay? So I'm going to say count how many characters is ZAF. That's 1, 2, 3. So you type 3 there, and then I get the abbreviation. Okay, that's for further practice at your own time. Okay, so we have dates in numbers. What if I want to get dates in text and not just numbers? Okay, so what you do is say you call equals to, and then you call the text function. Text function, okay? Then you reference the cell. And when you reference the cell, it's asking you how do you want to format this text, okay? We want to format this text as a date, but in a text, in a text style, okay? So we put it in column, in a quotation mark, and since this is a day, we're going to use D, okay? And then you close brackets and you press enter, and it's going to give you the day of that date in text, okay? You can do the same thing for months. Because of time, I'm going to, sorry. Say equals to, right? Say text again, you call the function text, and we click on the value, and then we put our comma, and then what format style do we want to put it? Month in text, okay? So we say month, M, and then we close the bracket, right? And press, and we close the bracket, and then we press enter, and again, you get your date in text. Now, Excel has something we call logical functions, okay? Logical functions is saying, okay, if something is this, do this, okay? You're telling Excel that if something is this, do this. Okay, so how does the logical function work in Excel? We have if function, sum if function, counting function, different functions, okay? So how does the if function works? We just press equals to again, and we say if, okay? So if logical test, what does logical test mean? It means, okay, what are you testing for? If what? Okay, I'll say, okay, if the number is greater than this, do this. If the number is lesser than this, do this. Okay, that's what the logical test is. Okay, so if I say logical test, my logical test here is I want to say, okay, if the number is greater than 50, right? If the number is greater than 50, the person should retire from our company, okay? So we click on the cell reference again and say if 25 is greater than what? 50, the number 50, okay? Sorry, if the cell reference is greater than 50, what should it do? Okay, if the value is true, we just want it to say retire. Retire. Okay, then if it's not greater than 50, what do you want to say? We want to say active. Okay, person is active. Okay. Okay, so when I press enter, it's telling me that Abel Usman is not up to 50 years old, so he's active. Okay, so then we can drag the formula down again, and then watch out. What do you see? You see that anyone greater than 50, we have the text retire showing them. Let me make this more obvious. Okay, conditional formatting. We use conditional formatting. Text contains retire. Okay, so anywhere it says retire, it should just highlight it for us. Okay, with this now we can easily see that those with red, with the cells with red font color are those that are to be retired. Okay, so that's how we use the if function. You can use it for any logical test at all. Greater than, equals to. Okay, you can have, you can try that at your own time. Okay, then we also have something called sum if. Okay, I want to sum any number that belongs to Victor. Okay, any number that belongs to any sales that belongs to Victor. I want to know how much sales Victor has made. Okay, and for me to do that, I'll say equals to sum if. Okay, now Excel is asking you what is the range, okay, of where am I looking at? Okay, so we're looking at the sales rep names. Okay, that's the range we want Excel to look at. Okay, and then it's now saying, okay, if I'm looking at this range, what is the criteria exactly? What exactly am I looking for? You're going to say look for Victor. Okay, we're clicking on Victor. Okay, then now say, okay, what range or which cell range should I sum? So you direct Excel to the sales amount. Okay, and then you close bracket, and then guess what? Excel will sum all the sales for Victor. If you want to confirm if this is correct, this is Victor, right? Let's do the manual way. This is Victor. So let's add all Victor's. So if you want to highlight all Victor's sales, okay, hold down Control on your keyboard, okay, and then highlight all Victor's sales. Okay, now look downwards at your bottom right of your screen, just downward here. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you can see it, but close to the zoom adjust, you will see a summary there where you have average, count, and sum, right? And you can see that the sum of Victor's sales is 650,000. Okay, now let's say we want to know the sum for Rita's sales. Now instead of deleting this formula, right? Instead of deleting this, right? You do this. Leave the formula there, but change the criteria. Okay? And when you change the criteria, let's say we want that of Rita. Okay, that's of Rita. Then we type Rita. Now see what happens when we type Rita. It searches, because it's a formula, right? The formula is just like a variable. It's storing the data for you. So if you remove the item in the container and put another item, okay, it's going to work with that item. That's how a formula is. Okay, that cell referencing we used has helped us, so that in case we change the variable, which is Rita or the name of Victor, the formula automatically adjusts to the criteria. So that's one of the good things about working with Excel. You can have formulas and then you can just change your variables. Okay. Now we also have what we call count if. Okay. So now what does count do? Count, like it says, count the number of items, right? So let's say we want to count the numbers of items for just sunscreen. Just say count. Okay. Count if. It asks you for the range you highlight, and what is the criteria? We want to count sunscreens, right? And then we close the brackets and we press. Sorry. The range is supposed to be the text. Okay, so with that, we have 4 sunscreens. Okay, we do that for the rest of the items, and then it counts how many face wash we have. We have 1 face wash and vitamin C serum, 3 vitamin serum. So that's those are logical functions in Excel. Now these are essentials, or Excel essentials that we're looking at. So let's see sort and filter. How does sort and filter work? Excel has what we call something, a feature called sort and filter. Okay, so if you want to sort these names alphabetically, what you do is you right click. Okay, when you right click, a menu comes up, and then you will see something called sort. How do you want to sort? You want to sort alphabetically. Okay, so you want to sort it from A to Z. So when we click on A to Z, it arranges the names alphabetically. You can see Arnold, Charis, Dorcas, A, B, C, D, and so on. What if you don't want to sort alphabetically in ascending order? We want to sort in descending order, that's Z to A. We click on Z to A, and then we have Peter up and the rest. Okay, we Excel does not only just sort text, it also sorts numbers. Okay, so these numbers are random numbers that have been arranged here. You can sort this by just highlighting on the cells and right clicking again, and then you sort. Okay, we want to sort, for instance, smallest to largest, and then Excel arranges it from smallest to largest. Same thing also, largest to smallest, and then Excel arranges it accordingly. Okay, let's say we have first name and surname. Okay, and then you do the same thing. You sort the way I just sorted above. See what happens. Okay, and I sort A to Z. Okay, we see that Louis' surname is Ferguson, and Arnold's surname is Bill, right? Let's just sort, okay, for using just this column and see what happens. I say sort A to Z. Now Excel is going to bring a warning saying, oh, we saw some data beside the one you are trying to sort. Do you want to expand this selection, or do you want to continue with your current selection? Okay, so maybe because you don't have an idea, and you continue with current selection. See what happens. When you click on sort, you see before we had Louis Ferguson as the name and surname, but when you sort with only that column, you would disrupt data. Now Louis' surname is now Armstrong, so that is a very wrong data representation. Okay, and now for us to get this to fix this, you have to highlight the whole range, the name and the surname, and then you right click, and then you sort A to Z. Okay, and Excel will take, we had Louis Ferguson as name and surname, and Excel will arrange it accordingly. Okay, so whenever you have items beside your data and you want to sort, make sure you are sorting and expanding the selection, else you will disrupt the data. Okay, so that is that. So another option or feature in Excel is called filters. Okay, you have filters. Let's say we have this list of fruits here and we want to filter for just pineapple. We can right click and then you'll see filter above. Okay, and it says filter by selected cell value, and the value in that cell is pineapple. So when we click on that, it filters for just pineapple. So all pineapples in my data would be filtered. Okay, so another way you can do that is by coming to the menu, to your ribbon. Okay, and at the top of your ribbon you see sort and filter. Okay, sort and filter. So you click on that button, and then you click on filter, and then the filter sign comes up, and then you can filter by clicking on the arrow. Okay, so you can click select, Let's say you want to select for bananas, okay? And then you press OK, and it will filter for just bananas. Now, Excel doesn't just allow you to filter for just text, you can also filter for numbers, okay? So if you want to filter for number, you click on this arrow below, and then you say number filters. You want to filter for numbers maybe greater than 10 or 20, greater than 20, okay? And I type in 20, and then it's going to filter every item greater than 20. Okay. Next, let's go to tables. Now, Excel has a feature called tables, okay? Tables make your data representation look nice, okay? So we have these items here, okay? We want to make it into a table. To make it into a table, you select the item, and when you select the item, you go to the Insert menu, okay? Insert menu, select the item, go to the Insert menu, and when you click on the Insert menu, you see something called table, okay? So when you click on the table, Excel asks you where is your data for your table. Already, as long as you've highlighted the cell range, it's going to pick that address, cell address, or cell range, or range address. It's going to automatically pick it, and then it's going to ask you, does your table have headers? Okay, our table has headers, so we're going to click on it. Okay, automatically it will even take notes if your table has header or not. Okay, so you press OK, and Excel makes a table. Okay, Excel makes a table for you. Now, one good thing about Excel is that Excel tables that you can expand, and when you expand, it picks up the formatting. Okay, you can add other information, total, and then if you want to calculate the total sales, you can say equals to call the cell times this cell, and then it gives you the results. Then you can also populate the results by just clicking on this. You can also populate the results by just double clicking on the fill handle here. Okay, so in tables you can also change when you insert a table. Okay, when you insert a table, you have an additional option called table design. It appears once you insert a table. When you click on the table, you can change the table name. Okay, you can call this food record. Okay, for instance, and then you save the table. Okay. Okay, for Excel, you need to use an underscore to separate your text for tables, okay? Fruit record. So this is how you name your table, okay? So if you have different tables on your sheet, naming a table can be helpful, okay? And then you can also change the design of your table. Let's say you don't like the design, you want something better. Okay, you can apply any of these designs here. Okay, another feature of the table is that you can also add a total row. You can easily quickly add a total row, and then when you check this total row, Excel adds a total row. It automatically calculates the total of your cell. Okay, so that's table in Excel. Now, visualizations in Excel. You can also represent your data using visualizations. Let's say we have a table of this webinar attendance from 2020 to 2025, and you want to show your stakeholders how maybe you are improving or not improving in a webinar, all the webinars you guys have been performing, and you want to show your stakeholders, see how far you've gone. We can use a graph and a chart, a visualization option. Okay, so you For you to call out a visualization, you highlight the table, and when you highlight the table, you go to insert, okay? And when you click on insert, you have other options. And those options, you will see something called recommended charts. That is, Excel looks at your table and recommends what type of chart you should use, okay? So if I click on the recommended chart, it's recommending a line graph for me. Yes, I would go with that because a line graph shows you trends over time, okay? So if you want to represent your data showing trends over time, you use a line graph, okay? So I'll just click on OK, and then it brings out data for me. Now, you can format your charts, okay? Let's say I do not like this style and I want another style. I just come to chart design, and then I go through the list of options. If I hover over them, it changes the style, okay? So I would like to go with this option. Okay, let's say we're going with this option, okay? And now Excel, and then you go with any option you like. Then you can also, you have other options, chart elements, okay? This cross sign, you just click on it if you want to adjust any of the chart elements, okay? Let's say I want to add axis title, okay? For example, it will ask me what axis title do I want to add. So if I want to add a name for just the horizontal axis, I can just click on this horizontal axis, okay? And then I can call it whatever I want. Let's just say years. Okay, if you want to add, so if you want to format again, just click on the chart, click the add button. And if you want to remove labels, okay, you can do that. You can do that by just, you know, deselecting the data labels. If you want to add it, you add it. So you can just play around these options, you know, to see how you can format your charts. Okay. So then there are other charts, okay? So we also have a chart called a column chart. Okay, if you want to compare between two entities, you can use something you call a column chart, okay? And Excel will automatically recommend that chart for you. Okay, then again, you can change your design, and also you can rename the title, okay? Let's call it preferences, gender preferences, gender preferences, okay? You can just change it and rename the chart, okay? You can use a column chart. You can also add other formatting as you like. Then, okay, if you want to know, for instance, you want to know how many shares goes into a project, maybe an entertainment project, okay, and you want to represent it to your stakeholders, how many shares you're taking from maybe an entertainment project they had, you can use a pie chart, okay, to represent that, okay. Automatically again, Excel will recommend this chart for you because you're trying to show portions of a whole, okay, and then you can use this pie chart. So there are so many graphical representations you can represent. Graphical representation, you can represent your data, okay? So here I'm going to stop right now. So this is just a basic introduction of Excel. We've gone through a lot, okay? You can at your own time just go through the data. Okay, so that was a quick Excel demonstration. I hope we were able to follow through with it. Okay, so I want to find out if you're still with me. If you're still with me, just type in the comment section ways you generate data as a person. As a person, how are you, what data do you generate on a daily basis? You can just type it on the section. What data do you generate on a daily basis, okay, as a person, before we move into the next slide? I'm not seeing anything though. Are we together? I'm just talking to myself. As a person, what data do you generate daily? Okay. Okay, someone said messages from people. Yes. Chats. Yes. The pictures you're posting online daily those are data you generate as a person. Invoices. Yes. Yes. Okay, someone says as a fashion designer, customer payment and my customers' information. Yes, yes, that's nice. Okay, likes on social media. That's nice. Chats on social media. Good. So you can see that we are all generating data. Okay. Okay, into the next section. Now we are going to get our hands dirty. Okay, we are going to analyze data. Okay, like a data analyst. Let's say you have learned the basics of Excel and you have some skills to analyze data. Okay, so now and you have been employed into a company to analyze their data. We are going to go through this scenario and see how you analyze data as a data analyst. Okay. Okay, so practical data analysis. Okay, we're going to use the data analysis processes we spoke about the last time. So what are the data analytics processes? Please, can you type it on the comment section? The data analytics analysis processes that we talked about. Do you still remember the data analysis processes? Can you type it on the comment section? Do you remember the processes? Lovely, lovely. Thank you, Esther Chipe. Esther, thank you. So the data analysis processes is ask, prepare, process, analyze, share, and act. Okay, great. So now here is our scenario. We have customer sales performance at Real People Store. Let's say you're working as a data analyst at the Real People Store. Now, here's a background. You're a data analyst at the Real People Store, a retail company that sells home and office supplies. Okay, a retail store that sells home and office supplies. Now, the manager of that store wants insights into Q1 2025 sales performance. Okay, he wants to know, okay, how did we perform in the first quarter of 2025? That first quarter is January, February, March. Okay, so he wants to know which products and regions generated the highest sales and which sales rep need improvement. So now he wants to know, let's remember this, have this at the back of your mind, that your manager wants to know which products and regions generated the highest sales and which sales reps need improvement. Okay, so now in the first step of our data analysis process, we say we are going to ask questions. Okay, your manager has come to meet you and he has given you that task. You want to clarify, you want to identify the problem. Okay, the problem is he wants to improve in the next quarter. Okay, that's the problem, and he has told you what he's looking at. He wants to know which sales rep is performing well or not performing well, and which products are doing good and which products are not doing good. He wants to know the total sales. So now you're going to itemize these questions. Number one, which region has the highest total sales? Okay, because that's what it's asking for. Which product categories perform best? Okay, who are the top performing and least performing sales representatives, and where can we improve in the next quarter? So this is getting your customers or your stakeholders' requirements. You have to write them down somewhere and have it at the back of your mind. Okay, now the next step is to prepare the data. Okay, Now, how do you prepare the data? Remember what I said earlier, you collect and store the data. You think about where you what data you want to collect and where you want to store. Okay, and data can be collected through various different ways. Data can be collected through interviews. Okay, the interviews you see online, when you interview someone, you can collect data through that means. You can collect data through observation. Okay, you can observe, you know, when you go to the hospital and then they observe your temperature. Oh, you have high temperature, maybe by just touching the person or something. So through observation, okay, or by looking at someone, you can tell the person is sick by the way the person is behaving. Okay, through observation, you can collect data. Okay, you can also collect data through forms. Okay, nowadays people say, oh, you want to join my webinar, use this form. Okay, you can collect data using form like Google Forms. Then you can collect data using questionnaires. Okay, maybe you go for a survey and then you distribute, you print out some questions and then you distribute to people and you collect data. Okay, you can also collect data through surveys and cookies. Okay, you know, when you go online, they say, okay, do you want to accept these cookies? They're actually collecting your data, trying to study the things, the websites you go to, the things you like, your behavior on the web. Okay, those are cookies. They're trying to save those data. Okay, now, okay, where after you've thought about how you want to collect data and what types of data you want to collect, you're also going to think about where you want to store your data, whether you want to store it as a CSV format or a spreadsheet or a database, or in a database like SQL. Okay, so in this scenario, we have received a sales data file exported from multiple branches, okay, and it is stored in Excel. Okay, so I would want the real people team to share this dirty data on the comment section so that people can work with it. Okay, the real people team, the data will be shared to you in the comment section or in the WhatsApp group. Okay, dirty data we're going to work with that you have received. Okay, because you can receive data different forms. Okay, it could be first party data, it could be second party. The first party data is data you collect yourself directly and then you use that data. Then second party data is data that was collected by someone else and then was sold to you. Okay, but here we're going to be using a first party data. We're going to be using a first party data and it's going to be from the company. Okay, that was collected from different branches. Okay, so it's a bit messy, and in data analytics, we refer to it as what? Dirty data. Okay. Now, in the third stage, okay, so I believe that the data is being shared to you. Okay, so this is the data we have received from the real people store from different branches. Okay, it looks like this, very messy and not meaningful. Okay, so let's go back to your slide. We'll come back to that. So the next step is we process this data. And what do we do in the process stage? We clean, we prepare the data. Okay, we want to clean this data and make it look nice for analysis. Okay, now that data is data that is incomplete, incorrect, irrelevant to the problems you're trying to solve. Okay, those are dirty data. So dirty data you should watch out for are inaccurate data, duplicated data, incomplete data, inconsistent data, outdated data. Okay, so let's say we are working with data for 2025 and in your data you're saying 2024. It doesn't it's not a relevant data to the problem you're trying to solve. So you're going to have to remove that data, okay, if you're cleaning it. Okay, so you watch out for this dirty data when you're working. Okay, so let's go to our sheets so that we can clean that data we have received. Okay, I want to believe that everyone has gotten that data. Can you please confirm if the data has been shared? Okay, I think they said it's going to be shared on the group. So if you're on the WhatsApp group, you can just pick up the Excel sheet and let's start working. Okay, so if you are working in the online spreadsheets, okay, you might have to import this data. Okay, I think there should be somewhere an option for you to import data. This is my data that's been shared. You just go to File, okay. I believe there should be an option on the online spreadsheet for you to import the data. So just try importing, just look around and try importing this data set so that you can work with them. Okay. Okay, so when you get this data, the first thing you want to do is to understand the whole gibberish that you're seeing here. Okay, so what data am I holding? What does this data contain? Okay. Now, okay. Okay, so you have a data like this. So the first column, you look at the first column, you see order ID. Okay, so you have an idea, okay, that this is talking about the ID numbers of the order. Then you have dates. Okay, I have region. Okay, this is very important for data because the question is to analyze what region has the highest performing sales, right? So this information is important. And you have sales rep, okay, because we want to know the highest and the lowest performing sales rep. Then we also have product categories. We have products, we have brand, we have quantity sold, we have units, we have total sales, we have purchase type in store or online. We also have purchase method and customer type. Okay, so now we have a rough idea of what this data is talking about. And the next, a pro tip, whenever you are working with raw data, always duplicate that file. It's important. It's a pro tip because if you just start working on this sheet without duplicating the data, you might make a mistake and then you might want to start over, but you don't remember because you've altered the data. So for you to start working on data, always duplicate the sheet so that the original file is still there. You can reference it, you can refer back to the sheet. So to duplicate this data, I'm going to right click. When I right click, I'm going to see some options that will pop up. And then I'm going to go click on move or copy. Okay, move or copy. So you click on move or copy. Once you click on move or copy, it's going to bring up another option. Now you don't want to, if you click on just if you click OK, nothing is going to happen. You have not duplicated data. Okay, it will still have it will still be one sheet, but because we want the same sheet, okay, but on a new sheet because we want the same sheet on a new sheet, you have to click on move or copy. Then you have to click on, you have to check create a copy. Okay, if you want to duplicate data, you must click on create a copy and then you click OK. Awesome. So now you see it's data 2. So if you click on this sheet, we have the same information. Click on this sheet, we have the same information. Okay, now I am going to rename this data, this dirty data, and call it cleaned data because we want to clean it. Okay. Okay, now it's time to clean our data. That's prepared data. So now let's start with the order column. Okay, firstly, we need to add a filter. Okay, what's going to make our cleaning process very fast is to use the sort and filter. The sort and filter feature is a very powerful tool. So we're going to apply it to the columns, okay, our headers. Okay, another thing we can do is to make our headers bold so that we'll know that that's an header. Okay, those are the headers. Okay. Okay, someone said it has been shared. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so now that we have our filter applied, the next thing is to go through the columns, okay, to clean the data. Now, let's start with the header before we go into the columns, okay? The header, we can see order ID, it's fine, it makes sense, it's meaningful. Date makes sense, meaningful. Sales rep, okay? Somebody might be confused. What does sales rep mean? We know that most of us know that it's sales representation, okay? Representative, sorry. So, but for some people they might not know. But you want to make sure that your data is meaningful. So we can just, you know, make it meaningful by typing the full name, okay? So that whoever is picking this data understands what this column is all about. So product tags, okay, that one too, we can just also change that category, the full name, so that it makes sense to whoever look at the data. You can see that the data has different formatting, okay? There is capital letter and numbers, hyphen and numbers. Some have bigger numbers, some have smaller numbers, like that. Different formats, okay? You can see that when you click on the filter button, different formats, and that's not what we want. We want our data to be consistent, okay? Any reliable data has to be consistent. Any clean data has to be consistent. So for consistency's sake, first thing we want to do is to make the numbers that have a standard that's okay. Our other numbers will be in capital letters followed by an hyphen and then some digits, okay? So to do that, we're going to use the insert. You right click and click the insert, okay? Okay. So you right click and click on the insert. If you don't want to right click and click on the insert, another way you can do is Control Shift, hold down the Control key and Shift and plus. Control Shift, hold down the Control key and the Shift key at the same time, and then click the plus sign, and then you add a new set. That's the shortcut for adding, okay? You want to remove, okay? So that's the shortcut for adding a new column. Okay, so now that we've added a new column, the first thing we want to do is to change the order to capital letter. So can you remember how to, I hope you remember how to change to all caps, okay? We use a function, okay? You can type in the comment section what function we can use for that, okay? We use upper, okay? And when you call the upper function, you reference the cell, okay? And then you close the bracket and you press enter. And this is in capital letter, so you won't really see the difference, okay? If I try it for somewhere like this place, you can see that it will change. If I copy the cell and paste there, it's going to change the order ORD to all caps, okay? Now, instead of doing that one by one, we can use again the fill tool, okay? And then when we double click on it, lower part goes down, and then we have successfully, you know, make our order ID consistent, okay? So, but that's not enough, right? Okay. Now we want to delete this cell. We want to delete this cell because we've successfully changed the order ID to all caps, right? So now, for instance, we name this order ID. We say, okay, since I've already cleaned my data, let me remove this cell. Okay, so that this cell will be left alone. So column B will be left alone, right? So you decide to now delete it. Guess what happens? Excel is going to throw an error. Why is it throwing an error? Because it has a formula and you referenced a particular cell. And now you've deleted this cell. It's asking you, where am I to reference? Or where I'm referencing is missing, or the reference is missing. Okay, so you can't just delete. You can't just delete the cell you reference. Okay, what you do is to copy this clean data and you paste it on this cell. And to do that, you hold down your control key and control key and your shift key and the down arrow key to highlight all the other ID numbers. Okay, control shift and the arrow key down, and then you've highlighted all the all the other IDs, right? And the next thing you do is to click on control copy. Now you will know if you have copied a cell because you see the dancing ants. Okay, the dancing ants, that shows that you've copied the cell. And then the next thing you do is to paste it on the current column. Okay, you can paste by just clicking on your keyboard, pressing down Control and V. Sorry. Press down Control and V. Now you're saying, why is this thing throwing an error again? It's throwing an error because you copied it. Excel will copy with the formula. Okay, it's copying with the formula. You don't want to copy with the formula. You want to copy only the values. You want to copy only the text. And to do that, okay, we are going to paste values. Okay, there's something called paste values. So you right click, and then you see all these paste options here looking at you. Okay, there's something called just the ordinary paste, which we did earlier. You'll see that it will result in an error. And we have a paste that has 1, 2, 3. That's paste values. Okay, so you just click on that option because we want to paste just the values. Okay, and then now when you delete, okay, another shortcut for that is you can just, when you copy, let's do Ctrl Z. Okay, let's say you've copied your cell and you want to paste. The shortcut for paste values is Control Shift and V, the letter V. Control Shift and V. When you click on Control on your keyboard and Shift and V, then you paste only values. If you do Control V, it's going to paste with the formula and it's going to throw error. But if you do use Control Shift and V, it's going to paste values. And now you can comfortably delete this column because you've cleaned your data. Now, are we done cleaning the data? No, we are not done cleaning the data. We have some inconsistent data. Okay, if you go through your filter, you can see that some numbers are longer than the other ones. Okay, we have different numbers. This one is longer, this one is longer. Now, for us to clean this data, you put your insert again. Remember all those functions that we were using in the introductory parts of this section. They are very useful. Okay, they are essentials for data analysis. Okay, so now we want to confirm, okay, the numbers, the length of the other ID. Okay, let's say in your industry, the standard for other ID is maybe a particular number. Okay, maybe 8 digits. Okay, so now let's say for the Real People store, the standard for the number of ID is 9. Okay, 9 digits. Okay, so then to confirm that this is 9 digits, we say equals to, we are going to use the length function. So we put LEN. Okay, length. Okay, that's what we're going to use. Then we put open brackets, we reference this cell, and then we close brackets and we press enter. Okay, we can see now this the formula is giving us the total number of text. Okay, the total number of digits in this cell. Okay, now let's confirm for the rest of the cells. Again, we double click so that it will populate all the numbers. So now you can see that you have almost everywhere, you have 9, the length of the text to be 9. Okay, let's check our filter. However, we still have some other numbers that are 10 and 11. Okay, so these are absurd numbers. So let's see those numbers. You can select those other numbers that are 10 digits in length and 11 digits by just checking 10 and checking 11, and then press OK. Oh, we can see that these numbers have more than 9. They are more than 9. Okay, now in your company, you might have to go back to the original document. Okay, we cannot just start adjusting these numbers to make them 9. Okay, because we want 9 digits for it to be accurate. You can't just come here and start deleting and say, oh, this one has to be 9, so I'll just delete this. No, you have to go back to your company's what they call the source document. Okay, it could be an invoice, it could be a purchase order. Wherever this item can be found, you have to go back to the source document and confirm the actual details of this order number. Okay, so to do when you've confirmed that, okay, it's because someone was typing, human error, due to human error, someone added an extra 0. Okay, and to remove that extra 0, you just and to adjust this or correct this, just remove the extra 0. Okay, and now we have 9. We can do the same for other details when you've confirmed from the source documents. Let's just say the leading zeros are just extra zeros. Okay, we can delete them so that they can be consistent. Okay, so I'm just trying to clean the data and make it 9 digits. Okay, so that's why I said, okay, you cannot just assume when you're sure that the number, when you're sure that the other ID is just due to human, error. That's when you can clean up this data this way. You don't just delete any data, because the data you're deleting might be important. Okay, so now we have a consistent data. Okay, so everything is 9. So we can now select all, and we see that our other numbers are the same length. Now, are we done cleaning? Let's see. Oh, you can see here we have ODR. Here we have ORD. We need to also clean that. Okay, so to clean that, just quickly select that particular absurd data and just change that. Okay, just change that, and then you can see that our standard is to use an hyphen, but here we can see that it's a dash. Okay, so we have to correct that also. Sorry, not an hyphen. Yes, we need to correct that. This data that we have an underscore. Sorry, underscore. Okay, the standard is to use an hyphen, or we have an underscore. We also clean that by selecting them and correcting them. Okay, so we see that we've cleaned the column ID, right? The column row, sorry, the other ID column. Okay, we've cleaned that. So we can now move to the next column. Okay, you just proceed, and the next column you can see that there are different formatting of dates. Okay, you're like, okay, this is the date. Why am I having a serial number here? Okay, why? So now it's because when you click on this cell, active cell, when you look up at the format, you can see it's formatted as a number. Okay, so Excel stores numbers from January 1st, 1900, right, the serial numbers. Excel stores dates in serial numbers from January 1st, 1900 to date. Okay, so that's why you have this serial number here. Okay, but we don't want it to be a serial number. We want it to be a date. So we're going to change that to a date. Okay, so that it can be consistent. We'll do that for the rest of data. Again, Control Shift, hold down Shift, hold down the down arrow, and then you change the format to a date so that when we have places that are not consistent, Excel it will be corrected. Sorry. Okay, now we look at our data. There's 2024 data inside there because our question, right? Our question was that we want to work with the first quarter details of 2025, right? And we are saying 2024. That is an outlier. Okay, that data is not part of what we need. It's an irrelevant data, so we're going to remove that data. So remove that data by selecting just that 2024. So when we click on it, we press OK, and then we can easily delete this data because it's irrelevant to the solution or to the analysis we're about to perform. Okay, so we delete the whole row by clicking right clicking on the row. Sorry, by right clicking on the row and then pressing delete row. Okay, and then you can now display the rest of the data. Now, remember that we're working with the first quarter data. And now you're seeing May. Okay, May is also a data that is not relevant to what we are working with. So we are going to delete that information. Okay, we'll select May so that we can easily cite, those data that are outliers. Okay, so these two data are, they are irrelevant. Okay, and now I can decide to delete this data, or I can decide to delete this. Okay, I can decide to leave this. Why would I want to leave it? I would want to leave it if it was a typo error. Okay, there are sometimes, in American, when you save dates or when you write dates in an American standard, they start with the month, right? They start with the month and then the day and then the year. Okay, that's how they store dates, right? But in the British format, they store dates as day, month, and year. So now you have to go back again to your source document to confirm what date actually was this data. Okay, so to do that, when you go back to your source document, whether the purchase order, whether the invoice, whatever data you can get this information, whatever source you can get this information from, and you look and you confirm, and I say, oh, okay, it's actually supposed to be 5th February. 5th February. So you can now come and change the dates. Okay. Do we understand? I wish I could get feedback. Are we together? Okay, so you can now change the format of the dates. Okay, but first you need to confirm from your source data what the real date is. Okay, so if it was May, we would have deleted it. Okay, we would have just deleted that data. So let's go back to the original data. So we are done cleaning the dates. Our date is looking nice and neat. So for the region, we have some. When we click on filter, we can see that we have wrong spellings. Okay. Okay, dirty data can be as a result of wrong spellings. Okay, so you have to be careful and then correct those wrong spellings. Okay, so let's correct those spellings. We'll filter those cells with wrong spellings by selecting the wrongly spelled text. Okay, region, wrongly spelled region. Okay. Let's start with the notes. Okay, so let's click on all the notes. Now you can see that that's the wrong spelling. So to address that, you can just drag. We have the right spelling as the first one, so you can just drag and drop to correct the spelling. Okay. Now you have to be careful when you're dragging and dropping, because sometimes you can change the information that is hidden, the hidden data, the rest of the hidden data in between the cells. Okay. So to ensure that you have not changed any data, just select all again, because the column will still be highlighted. So you can see we still have not. Okay, this east has not changed to not. So you're good. Okay, you're good. So again, we want to change the spelling, wrong spelling for the south. So we also do that by just dragging again. Okay, filter and then you drag, and then you've corrected all the wrong spellings. Okay, so east, north, south, west. Now we have correct spellings of the region. Okay, now let's say we want to make the region, we want to place the region in capital letters. We just insert a new cell and then we change it to all caps by calling upper. Okay, because that's the standard we want to use for this data. Okay. And then we easily change to all cap, and then you populate the data, then you copy again, and then you do Ctrl+Shift and V, okay, to paste values. Now we can delete this cell. Okay, source representative data. Okay, we have, again, we have different names, but they are written in different sentence cases. We have some uppercase, we have some lowercase. Again, we want to clean that by also, but this time we don't want to use it as all caps, one sentence case. So we use proper. Okay. We click on that. And then you populate by double clicking. And then you copy and then you Ctrl+Shift paste. You can also delete the column. Now, we are not done. When we look into our filter, we see that we have different names. We have spaces, we have incomplete names. When somebody would impute, like the data entering guys, somebody, if they don't have a standard, somebody can impute bless. Maybe the person is too lazy to type and just type bless instead of blessing Belema, the full name. So there has to be a standard, okay, when you're entering data. Okay, if I want my name to be uppercase, everything, whoever is entering the data should enter it in uppercase, or else we'll be having dirty data. Okay, so now for this, we need to correct that, the spaces, the incomplete names, you know. So let's start with the space, removing spaces. Okay, so we add a new column, insert, to remove space. Okay, can we remember how to remove spaces? Can we type in the comment section, how do we remove space? What function will I use to remove the space? Hello? What function will I use to trim? Thank you very much, Baba Tope Hannah. Yes, you use the trim function to remove spaces. Okay, so let's go back. So I know that you are with me. Okay, so you say equals to trim. We call the trim function. You cell reference again, and then you close, and then you press enter. Okay, so after you do that, you just populate, okay, because you don't want to waste time. So everything becomes proper. Again, you will notice that here we have space and here we don't have space. So the trim function has been able to eliminate the space. Okay, so you copy again and then you paste. Then you can delete the cell. Okay, so here again, now we can see that we have blessing belly marks written in different ways. So we want to select those different naming convention and make sure that they are consistent. Okay, so we want the name to be presented as the full name, Blessing Belema. So you just, drag Blessing Belema all through so that it's consistent. Okay. Right. Now we have Blessing Belema. Others have been cleaned off. Now we also have Chinedu Obina. Chinedu Obina also have different variations, and they are one person, except it's a different person. That's when you're allowed to leave the data. Okay. Then again, you have to go back to your source document to confirm. But if it's the same person, okay, and it's written in different variation, you have to make sure that the data is consistent. Okay, so I would select Chinedu again, and I would correct the spellings, the wrong spellings, okay, by dragging the first one, because the first one is correct. I'll drag and drop. Okay, next we have another wrong spelling. We have Olawale Olajuwon, and we have Olawala Olujuwon. Again, go back to the source document to confirm which name is accurate. Are they two different persons or it's just one person? So if it's the same person and the correct name is Olawale Olajuwon, you just drag and drop and correct the ones that are wrong so that you have consistent data. Now, notice we have an empty space in the region side. Okay. Okay, why is that space empty? Maybe someone forgot or just forgot to, complete that data. Now, from this data, we can decipher that Olawale Olajuwon is the sales rep for the West region, okay? And with this information, we can just populate, we can just complete the data, okay? But if you're not sure again, please go back to the source document, okay? So that you're sure that you're imputing the right data, okay? And you also notice the same thing for Chinedu. We also have an incomplete information, okay? So we need to what? Populate data. Except that data does not exist or it's unavailable. That information is unavailable. Then you can leave it like that. If not, go to the sub document, confirm, and populate the right data. So we are done cleaning the sales reps volume. Then the next is the products category. I think for this, we look through the products category. Okay, we only have 3 products: electronics, furniture, and office supply. So what we want to do, everything looks cleaned. Okay, we just want to make it a proper sentence case. Okay, so we say equals to and just say proper so that it just looks nice. Okay, proper, and then press enter, and then we have furniture. Or let's make it upper. All caps, because it's like a category. Okay, so it's standards. Whatever you decide, okay, it's up to you how you want to represent your data, but just make sure data is consistent. Okay, so then we copy, and again Control Shift paste, and then delete. Okay, then again we see that our data is not properly aligned. Now, to make sure that this is properly aligned, we can just highlight this cell range at once by holding down your left key on your mouse and then dragging. And when you do that, you come to the alignment option up here, and then you can align however you want to align. For me, I'll be aligning using my left alignment. Okay, so we've cleaned that data. We can also make it proper so that it looks nice. Okay. Okay, so we copy and we paste. Okay, so is data consistent? Okay, we have one space here, so we also apply the trim. Okay, let's apply the trim to this to remove any space. Okay, because if you don't remove the trim, office with one space chair is different from office with double space chair. Excel sees them as different items, okay? So you need to trim so that it becomes one item. So Excel sees it as the same item, okay? That's why it's important to trim, except there are two different items, leave it that way. Okay, do the same thing for, okay. We do the same thing for app, for the brand. Let's see. Okay. So we use proper a lot here for this information. Okay. So we think that. Check. Is there any space here? No, seems to be okay. Now, when we come to this column, quantity sold, you see that these are numbers, right? So we need to change this column to be numbers. The formatting here is just general, but this is number. Okay, so we're going to Control Shift down arrow, and then we change the formatting to numbers because they're numbers. Quantity sold is number, but we want it to be whole numbers, so we're going to remove the decimal points. Okay, great. So these are all numbers. Then again, we go through our numbers, we can see a negative number, okay? We can't sell nothing, a negative number. Okay, this is quantity sold. Okay, so that must have been a mistake, okay? So when you go to your source document, confirm this before changing or correcting it. So let's just say it's 45 and it was human error in data entry, okay? Now, unit price. Okay, this is also a number, right? As the price of goods. Okay, we can change it to numbers, right? And then we can use the comma option here to just separate it to make it look nice and clean. Okay, and you can just go through your filter to see there are other inconsistencies. And if you look into this filter option, you can see that we have text information there, okay, which is not consistent, and we would have to correct that. Okay, we'll correct that later, but I'll come back to that. Let's continue. Okay, I need to show you something on that. Okay, so now here we have total sales. Okay, and when we check the total sales is really the quantity times the price. Okay, that is why it is good to know, have a domain knowledge of the industry you're working for. Okay, so marketing, to get the total sales, you multiply the quantity sold times the price. Now, you can decide to just go with this data, okay, but it will be very inaccurate. You want to perform data validation on this, okay, and to do that, you have to create your own column, insert, and calculate to confirm that this this total sales is accurate. Don't just assume, okay? As a data analyst, you don't just assume. You have to perform validations, okay? You need to check that this information is accurate, as long as you have the domain knowledge of, the domain knowledge of the industry. So we say equals to, right, our quantity sold times the price, okay? And then when we press enter, if you're having this hash sign because the size of the column is too small and it can't display all the digits. So if you want to display all the digits, just double click, come to your column, at the top here, and double click on it, and then you'll be able to see all the data, okay, displayed. Okay, so now you can see that the total sales here is 3 million, whereas in the one that we received from the sales team is 350. So that must have been a wrong calculation. So it is important for you to do data validation on whatever, anywhere you see formulas and where you're supposed to calculate. Okay, so we've just validated this data, and there are other data validation techniques, but I can't go through that now. But this is just one simple way by just inserting a formula and confirming. Okay, so now we populate this formula downwards. Okay, now populating this formula downwards, it makes up for all the same data, blank, 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 text, blank, blank, blank. Okay, all right. So now when you scroll down, you will see that Excel is throwing another error, value error. Now, what does this value error mean? It's saying you're asking me to multiply a text and a number. I can't multiply text. I can't multiply text and a number. Now, to correct this, we have to correct every cell that has a number represented as text. Okay, that's why you have that value error you're seeing there. Okay, let me highlight this. This is the one we just calculated. Okay, so that you can see the difference. Okay, so this is the one we received from sales team. Okay, and we are calculating products and units. Okay, so let me give you one extra bonus. Okay, so if you're scrolling down and you want to still see your header, okay, you just come to view, right, and you click on the header section and you click on freeze pans. Okay, you want to freeze the top row, freeze pane. So when you're scrolling, sorry, freeze top row. Okay, so when you're scrolling down, you can still see your header. So that's another tip I've given you. Okay, so now okay, so we are trying to correct this error, value error, right? So what we do is to change anywhere we have a number represented as a text, like this 5,000, 3,000. Okay, it's written in text. So let's correct that. Okay, so it's written in words. So let's assume that the price is correct. Again, refer back to your source document. Okay, so that would be 3,000 naira according to what's written there, and say 5,000 naira. So now you see that the calculation is being corrected. Okay, now it's accurate. Now we don't have that error anymore. Okay, so now we would copy this correct calculation and represent it in the total sales. Ctrl Shift V again to paste values. Then you can delete this cell. Another formatting you can do is, since we know is a number, since we know that this is a number, money, this column is talking about money, we would want to represent the data with currency. Okay, so you come here, change the format to, like I said, I like accounting because it makes it more neat. So you click on accounting and then you double click. Okay, in this case, we're in Nigeria, so we want it to be in naira. So you go to more number formats, click on it, and then you change the option to naira. Okay, so then you have it looks nice. So other columns, I believe they're okay. Okay, they're purchase type, and they're not really relevant to what we want, so they are just fine. Okay, and the information there is complete, so they're just fine. You can leave them that way. So now we have successfully cleaned the data. Okay, we have successfully cleaned this data. Now this is looking nice and neat compared to this. Okay, now we have a clean data that we can work with. Another thing you can do, I'm going to duplicate this data. like my clean data. I'm going to duplicate it because I want to turn it to a table. Okay. Another thing you can do is to turn this data into a table. So table. Okay. Turn this data into a table. So remember how we turn this data into a table? So remember how we turn data into a table? We just highlight this whole data, right? By clicking on Control and A. Control A highlights all the data on your spreadsheets, okay? Hold down Control key and press A, and it's going to highlight all the data at once. Okay, and now we want to make it a table. So we're going to insert a table. Okay, it's saying does this table have data, where's data for your table, and automatically it's going to pick that because we already highlighted the range. Okay, it's going to pick the range. Then does your table have a header? Yes, it does, and we're going to leave that checked, and then we're going to say okay. Now our data is in a table, right? And we can now make it look nice and neat. Okay, so you can see that our data is looking very nice. Let's say we want to give it more space, make it look more make it look neat. Okay, the data is highlighted. You can just drag to make the columns equal. Just drag, sorry, and highlight this data, and then you can just drag. Okay, and then you give it more, it gives it more space. Okay, if space is too much, you can drag that to reduce the space. Okay, now we've been able to turn our data in. Oh, we still have some error values. Okay, what could that be? Okay, so we need to change this to a number. Okay, let's see. Go back to our clean data, okay, and confirm that. Okay, that's why it's good to change. Okay, let's see where the error is coming from. Value. Okay, so 10. It's supposed to be 10. It's supposed to be a number, right? Price, and then we calculate equals to this times this. Okay, so that has been corrected. So that's why it's good to go through your data, okay, for any inconsistency, or else you'll be having a very bad result. So then again, I'm going to just delete this. And just recreate the data again. Okay, Control A again. Okay. Firstly, I want to remove pin. I want to unfreeze the data. Okay, and then I want to highlight, and then I want to insert a table. Okay. Okay, then you can adjust as you like. So now our data is cleaned, okay? Our data is clean and ready to be used for analysis. Okay, and now with this data, we can decide to perform some statistical analysis. We can say we want to find the, let's say, the highest number or in quantity, right? We can say mode. We can call the function mode. Sorry, the maximum number, let's say max. Okay. And then we highlight this whole cell. maximum number of quantity sold. You can do that. Okay. Okay. And press enter. Okay. Wait. We have double quotation marks there, so we can see that the highest quantity sold is 200. Okay, so we can perform some statistical analysis with this data. Okay, but I want to show you another way where you can get summarized data. Okay, just want to see a quick, you want to perform a quick statistics of the data you already have. Okay, so you can just come to data. Okay, there should be an option by your left. Okay, by your right, sorry. There should be an option by your right saying data analysis. Okay, if you don't have that option by your right, you have to go to file, click options, and then you go to right. Okay, you just have to enable it here, data analysis here, somewhere here, around here. In the options format, you just have to enable it. Okay, sorry, just hold on. Okay, you just enable it over the options tab there in file. Okay, so you just click on data analysis. I think time is no longer on my side. So you click on descriptive statistics and press OK. Okay, because we just want to get a summary data, okay, of maybe the quantity sold or the price. Okay, so you now click on the range, the Excel, where you want a descriptive analysis. Okay, you want a descriptive analysis of the quantity sold, so you highlight the range, and then it's asking you where do you want to display this answer. Okay, the output. Okay, we want it to be outputted. We want it to be the output should be placed here. Okay, and then you click on the down arrow, right? Then you ensure that this summary statistics is checked. Okay, because you're trying to make just have a summary statistics of what your data is all about, okay, of the quantities, and then you press OK. Okay, and then you have a summary statistics of the quantity. Okay, quantity. And then Excel just gives you like a statistic summary of the quantity. Okay, it tells you the mean, the median, the mode, the standard deviation, minimum, maximum data. Okay, you can also do the same thing again for the price. Okay, if you want to do it for the price, just repeat the same process. Data analysis, descriptive statistics, press OK, and then this time around we're going for the price. We just select price. Okay, and then it will ask you where do you want to put this data. Okay, here is fine. We just click there and it's going to bring out the results. Again, make sure your summary statistics is checked and press OK. Okay, and then you can just rename it as price. It's going to give you a summary statistics of your data. You have the mean, the standard, the median, the mode, and what have you. Okay, so now we are done cleaning this data. Okay. We are done cleaning our data. The next step is to analyze, okay? And to analyze the data the manager has asked us, okay? Just want to answer the question, okay? We want to show the total regions by total sales by region, show top performing sales reps, compare region sales virtually, and product category using interactive filtering. Okay, so to do this, we're going to use a pivot table. Are we still together? Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do is that we want to analyze our data now so that we can answer the question. Okay, so to do this, we're going to create something called a pivot table. A pivot table helps you to summarize data and analyze it immediately, like clearly, quickly. Okay, by summarizing the data, you can analyze your data quickly, answer the questions and answer the questions you're trying to solve. Okay, so to do this, I'm going to again select the whole data. Okay, after selecting the data, I'm going to insert a pivot table, okay, or a pivot table. Okay, so you click on it, then you say it will ask you, okay, where do you want to create your pivot table from? It's asking from table, range, or from an external data source. Okay, we want to get it from our table range. So we click on table range, and you can decide to rename your table. Okay, it's saying table 2 because we did not rename our table. Okay, but it's picking the range where we are. Okay, so it's asking you, do you want to display the pivot table on a new worksheet or on the existing worksheet? We want to display it on a new worksheet, okay? Because if you display it on an existing worksheet, it will be cumbersome, okay? You need to learn how to separate your sheets. Then you go ahead and click OK. Now, this is what a pivot table looks like, okay? Okay, in the pivot table, you have fields, filter, columns, rows, and values. Okay, so our first question, what is the first question we're at? Let me try and get all the questions in one piece. Okay, so that we can use them to analyze. We can use them, okay, to answer the necessary question. Okay, let's have this so that we can be looking at it and be working with the data. Okay. Okay, so our first question is, which region has the total highest sales, right? Which region has the total highest sales? So we're going to use our pivot table to answer that question. Okay, now the first element you can see there is region, right? We're looking at region. So we'll click on, and then the headers are populated here. Okay, the headers of your table over here, the headers, right? They are what you see in this field, this pivot table field. Okay, so you have the headers. Now I want to import the region. Okay, so to import the region, I can either check this box here for the region, and it will display all the regions we have. Okay, you go to your table, you check regions, you see you have east, north, south, west. Okay, so the pivot table, with just a click, you can call out all the regions. You either check this checkbox, or you drag region to the rows. Okay, you want the region to be represented in rows. Okay, then the question says, which region has the total highest sales? So we're going to look for the total sales in the heading. Okay, when we check the box, it's going to display the total sales for each region. Okay, if you don't want to check the box, you can as well drag. And now, sorry. I just want it somewhere here. Okay, so I'm trying to transfer the data to another column, okay, so that we can have the questions by the side. Okay, so just by using the pivot table and a quick glance, we can see the region with the highest sales. And from our analysis here, we can see that the East region has the highest sales with just a glance. Okay, that's what pivot table does for you. It gives you a summary, and with just a glance, you can tell that, okay, the East region has the highest sales, and the South region has the highest sales. I mean, the least sales rather. Sorry. Okay, so we can just put a heading to it. We've answered that. Okay, just put a heading here. Say highest sales. Highest region with highest sales. Region. Okay, and then we merge, right? And then we merge and add some formatting as you like. Okay. Okay, so we've answered question number 1. Okay, so by just using pivot table, we can easily tell that the East region has the highest total sales. Now the next question says, which product category performs best? Okay, which categories? What product categories do we have? We check here. We have furniture, electronics, and office supplies. So to answer that question, because from this data we cannot easily tell which product category has the highest sales. So to do that, we can again, okay, we can use this pivot table here, but because I don't want to remove this data, I would create another pivot table. And to do that, I can just easily come to insert again. This is another way. Insert, click on pivot table and say from table range. Okay, so because we've not highlighted or selected any table range, this space is empty. And to select the table range, we'll just click on this arrow facing up. And we click on it, right? We move to the cell that has the table, right? And then we select the whole table. Okay. Okay, and then we select the whole table. Okay, now that we've selected the whole table and Excel is aware of that table, we can now create another pivot table. Now, so to answer this question, which product category performs better? Okay, so we're going to click on the product category. We're going to click on the checkbox, okay, and it's going to bring out the list of products, okay, and then we're going to also include the total sales to find out which product performed best. Okay, so we click on this, and then we have the sum of sales. Okay, so in the comment section, could you tell me which product, just by looking at this pivot table, performed better? Okay, in the comment section, please. I want to know which product performed better. Okay, while I'm waiting for your response, I'm going to format this pivot table. You can also format your pivot table, okay? Because when you insert a pivot table, you see another tab up above in the ribbon, pivot table analysis, okay? You can click on it, then it brings up this option. You can click on the design, and then it brings up option for you to, format your pivot table. Okay, so now if you look at the header of my pivot table, it says row labels. Okay, that isn't meaningful. It doesn't really make sense. And for us to make it meaningful, we can just change the report layout. Okay, you come to report layout, right? And you click on it, and you and you say show in tabular form. Show in tabular form. And when you do that, now it gives it a meaningful name. Okay, you see that it now says product category. Okay, so what products, as based on our analysis, which product is performing best? Okay, I want to see your comments. What product is performing best? I haven't seen any comments yet. Are we still together? Are we still together? Hello? Are we still together? So what products performed best? We're almost getting to the end of we're getting close to the end of our presentation. From this pivot table, can someone tell me what products, in the comment section, what products performed best? Well, hello, are we together? Hello? Okay. Are we together? Okay, thank you, Nasir. Okay, from our pivot table, we can see that electronics perform better. Okay, thank you, Nasir. Thank you for responding. So I know that we are together and I'm not alone. From our pivot table, electronics performed better. So we've answered number 2. So we are in analysis and we're analyzing our data, and we are analyzing our data. We are answering the questions. Okay, so now let's give this a name. Okay, this table a name. So I'm going to call it, we can give it a name here. Sorry, again, just as we did with the table, we can also give it a name here. Okay, we can call it product category table. Okay, but that's not enough for me. I want to be seeing like the heading here. Okay, so instead of me just typing again, I can just copy this cell and just rename this as product category. Awesome. Okay, our time is fast spent. Okay, the third question is, who is the top and the least performing sales rep? Okay, the top and the least performing sales rep. We can do that because I want to separate the details. So I'll just copy again the range. Okay, just to call up another pivot table. Okay, that's why I'm doing that. The question is, who is the top performing sales rep? Okay, so we're going to again drag and drop the names of the sales representative. Okay, and then let's see the total sales they made. Okay, and from these we can easily see the top performing sales. Okay, sales rep. Okay, but even better, we can sort this data. Okay, we can sort. We can also sort in pivot table by right clicking and changing the data from largest to smallest. Voila. So we can easily see from here that Chinedu Obina is the top performing sales rep. Okay, and the least performing sales rep is who? Blessing Belima. Okay, Blessing Belima is the least performing sales rep. Okay, you've answered that question. Okay, the next question is where can we improve in the next quarter? Okay, before we get into that, we now understand how to use pivot table to analyze data. Okay, and this is a best performing sales rep. Awesome. Okay, now that who is the best performing sales rep, the best product, and the region with the highest sale, we can do other analysis. I just want to show you a few other analyses we can perform with this pivot table. Okay. We can also decide to look at the total number of sales made per month. Okay, this is not part of the question required by our clients, but I just want to show you how to work with dates in pivot table. Okay, so again, we insert pivot table. We're trying to create a new pivot table. We navigate to the data again, just to call up a new pivot table. Now we want to see the total sales per month. Okay, so because we have 3 quarters, we have January, February, March. Okay, and we want to see the total sales per month. Okay, now if you notice, we only have dates, right? And when you okay, sorry, let's see. Okay. Okay, that has already worked. So when you check the dates, sorry. Okay, so when you check the checkbox for dates, okay, you call the dates, okay. And notice what happens in the dates when we have only dates heading here. Or when you check the checkbox, it brings out dates in different ways. In months, as a month date, right? That's January, February, March, right? Or it also brings them out as days, okay? So now we also want to include the region, okay? Because we're trying to see I want to make sure that I am on this pivot table because we have different pivot table here. Okay. So let's check the region first and the total sales for each region. Okay. Now we want to do it by dates. Okay. So when I click on this date, okay, notice what happens. Okay. It's going to summarize the data, okay, region and then the month, region and then the month. But this is not what we want, okay? We want the date in another column and the region in another column. To do that, you come to your pivot table field and then you drag down because the region is on top. That's why you have region and date, okay? You drag down. You drag the region down, okay? Right, and then now we only need the months. We don't need like the dates, okay? Because when you expand this January, you see all the dates. We don't need all the dates, we just need the months, okay? So you can return these dates by dragging and returning it back so that we can have only months by dragging and returning it back to the pivot table field, okay? So that you just have months and region. Still, this is still not giving us what we want. Okay, we would go to design and we change the report format to tabular forms, okay, so that we can now see the region on another column. okay? And when you do that and you expand, you'll see the region, okay? So this is how date works in pivot table. Then you will see the region, okay? So now if we want to know the total sales for January, you see we have 146 million 915,000. Okay, so that is how to work with dates in pivot table. Okay, there are also there's another different analysis you can perform in pivot table. Okay, now instead of me copying and inserting another new pivot table, I can just copy this pivot table since it's the same data I want to work with, and I'll paste it here. Okay, instead of inserting a new pivot table, right? So I still have a different pivot table here. Okay, so if I want to look at sales representative, okay, in terms of percentage. Okay, maybe you're giving your sales representatives percentage. Okay, you want to give them commission based on percentage. Okay, you can just come here to the value column or space and just click on the arrow facing down. Click on it. Then you see something called value field settings. Okay, click on it, and then you would select this tab saying show value as. Okay, we want to show the value as percentages and not sums of sum. Okay, and not sum or not total sum of sales. So when you click, you see other options. You see percentage of grand total. Okay, we want to see them based on percentage of grand total, and we click OK. And you see now that the pivot tables is the total sales is represented in percentage form. Okay, this is just to show you different things the pivot table can perform. Okay, there are a lot of things that pivot table we can use to analyze the pivot table. Okay, so now we've analyzed our data. So we've analyzed our data. Next is to share and present insights. Okay, now to share and present this insight, remember what we said we're going to use. We're going to use visualizations. Okay, visualizations. So let's go back to our data. Now I'm going to copy this data. We're going to create a simple dashboard. That's what we're going to do. For the visualization, we're going to create a simple dashboard. Okay, now I'm going to call it visualization. Okay, we're at the last stage where we want to share our data. Okay, to our stakeholders. Okay, now we want to visualize. I'm going to delete the rest of this pivot table. You can delete by just right-clicking and clicking delete. Okay, I want to delete the rest. Because we want to visualize our data. Okay. Now we want to create a visualization of the product. Okay, a simple dashboard. Okay. Okay, now to do that, pivot table also allows you to insert visualizations. Okay, so you see Sorry. So you can insert charts in pivot table. Okay, pivot table charts. Okay, there's an option for pivot table charts, just the way you have insert tab and the chart options. Okay, pivot table also has its own chart and visualization. So you click on it. Again, Excel recommends what charts you should use. Okay, and for this chart, we're going to be using the column charts. Okay, so we just click on OK. That is fine for me. Again, it brings up another extra tab here that you can use to format the data. Okay. Okay. So now to format the data, you can format your chart, sorry. So to do that, you can just adjust the charts. You can change the name. You can call this Q1. Q1. Okay, just change it to Q1 2025 or 2025 Q1. Q1 region, or we can say sales data. Okay, sales data. Okay. Okay, so another thing we can do, we can remove that label. I want to remove this total label. Sorry. Okay, sorry, legend, sorry. Yes, we want to remove that legend. Okay. If you want, you can add axis, like I said. Also, you have that option too. Okay. You can also remove the grid lines in the pivot table charts. Okay, and then you just have a bare base. Okay, or you can include it if you want. Okay. You also have the option of adding the labels. Okay. You can easily add the labels, and if you are adding the labels, it's best to remove the axis. Okay, the vertical axis, just disable it so that you can have only the labels, and then you can remove the grid lines. Okay, so now we've successfully created a chart, and from here we can easily see that the East region, just by looking at this chart, we can easily see that the East region, okay, has the highest sales, total sales in the first quarter. Okay. Another thing we can do is that we can add a slicer. There's something called a slicer. A slicer helps you to filter through your pivot table. Okay. A slicer helps you to filter. Let's get rid of these questions. A slicer helps you to filter through your pivot table. Okay, so I'm going to insert a slicer. To insert a slicer, you click on this, your chart again, so that you can bring up the tab options above here. So when you click on pivot table chart analyze, you insert a slicer. Okay, now in the insert slicer, it's asking you which of these headings do you want to use as your slicer. Okay, in our case, we want to use the products category. Okay, let's use the products category. So when we check the products category, click OK, and then it brings up a slicer. Okay, and with this slicer, we can filter. This slicer interacts with this visualization. Okay, so if I click on electronics, you can see that our sales data transforms. Okay, when we're looking at only electronic sales. Okay, if I click on furniture, it's going to transform the data again. Okay, and to bring out only sales for the furnitures. And if I click on office supplies again, you will see that it will bring up information for the office supply. Okay, so let's remove the filter. And so with this, we've been able to create a visualization, a simple visualization to communicate this data to our stakeholders. Okay, so to make it look nice, we can as well include an header. Okay, just say 2025, or say real people store 2025 Q1 sales data. Okay, it's good to include headings in your data, okay, so that it looks really nice and presentable. Okay, with this, we've been able to create a simple dashboard. Okay, let's remove the grid lines so that it will look. To remove the grid lines, you go to View, okay, the View tab, and disable grid lines. And then again, you have something nice like this. So with pivot table and some visualizations, we've been able to create something presentable for our stakeholders. Okay, so from here we can tell that the East region had the higher sales. Okay, so we've been able to share. With that, we can share and present, our insights. Okay. Next step is to act. Okay. The next step is to act. You give these reports to your stakeholders, and from the analysis, we can see that the East region and electronics are driving sales. Okay. And we can also see that the South region are underperforming. Okay. You can include that in your reports. You can see that the South region are underperforming. Okay. We can also say that we can also recommend that they should tell each branch to always fix inconsistency in data entry. Okay, because when everybody enters the data correctly, you won't have to do so much data in cleaning. Okay, you wouldn't have to do so much data cleaning. So it's important that you recommend to the management that they should have a consistent or a standard for data entry in the organization. Another thing you can recommend is that the management can focus Q2, the second quarter promotions on office supplies and the South region. Okay, so these are reports you generate or answers you generate from your data analysis. Okay, so with this, we've come to the end of the processes for analyzing data. Okay, so my key takeaways. Okay, data is everywhere and it drives decision. Okay, everywhere you data is, everywhere people is, everywhere devices are, everywhere businesses is, data is everywhere and it drives decision. It's driving decision. Okay, understanding it gives you a powerful edge in any career. Okay, then number two, following the data analytics process provides a structure. Okay, you have to follow the data analytics process if you want to really clean or work as a data analyst, so that you won't be making mistakes, you will get accurate results. So ensure that you follow the data analytics process. Okay, so as you can see, or as you have seen, Excel is more than a spreadsheet. Okay, you can do a lot with data. Okay, on Excel, you can perform most of the business analytics tasks right inside Excel. Okay, and also number four, data cleaning is the art of data analysis. Okay, let's see the leading results. Okay, you can see in the total sales column that we received from the real people store, you can see that we had wrong calculations there. So messy data can lead to misleading results. Always validate data before analysis. Then Number 5, the goal of analysis isn't just to calculate, okay? It can be very interesting on Excel to calculate, to format, whatever. The goal is to understand and communicate this data to your stakeholders, okay? Is to communicate it so that we can solve a problem, so they can solve a problem, okay? And lastly, please grow beyond Excel, okay? Excel is just a starting point, okay? There are other tools you can use. SQL, Power BI, Python. There are more powerful tools than Excel, okay? So grow beyond Excel, okay? So Excel tells a story and Excel gives you the tool. Data tells a story and Excel gives you the tool to discover, understand, and share that story. Start simple, start curious, and keep exploring. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Miss Glory. We really appreciate the detailed presentation, and I believe everyone that has been a part of this webinar has learned a lot. So thank you, thank you. Can we just show more love to Miss Glory Asuko in the comments, in the emojis? A very big, 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 big thank you. And I believe everyone that